Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I just knocked the camera. Turn the light on. Hello. Welcome to I don't know what day. Wednesday, the 25th of August, 2021. And my niece has just been born. My other niece. That takes me up to 14 nieces and nephews. 14. Crazy, crazy. Um. So I say super quick one. It will be. We're going to go through some news, but not much has happened since Saturday, really. Well, one major thing, and that's about it, really. Um, and I'm still plugging away um, on trying to figure out the wording for the. Oh, hmm. Hello. Is that better? Um, Let me know whether that's better. Let me just. Problem is, I can't. There's no way to kind of test. Is there a way I can do it? No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So I used to be able to kind of test, but I've only got everything running through one device rather than having separate devices. Hello, Penelope. Hello. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out the wording with regards to the injunction against the mRNA. So I think the MHRA, I think the way that we do it is we go after the 179 regulation. So we've got to really dig into those specifics. And after the whole Pfizer debacle, which we'll go into in a minute, I think it's going to make it even more difficult, but not pointless. And we do still have time. We don't need to kind of panic with regards to because where are we? August, September, October, November. So we've still got a couple of months before everybody kind of is being forced to jab up, and there will be people. I don't know whether it will kind of. I don't know whether it's going to come into play or not. I'm hopeful, but I need to kind of figure out the words and the specifics. Me not being a lawyer takes things a little bit longer. So I had hoped to kind of come with a little bit of good news with regards to the quiz thing, the COVID quiz, but the lovely Pixel has been super busy. So these things happen. It'll happen when it's ready to go. So it's just super simple, and it's going to ask. That's like 10 true or false questions. Let me see if I show you. I'll show you the what's being done. But he's good old Pixel is a graphic designer, so he's going to do it in a way that makes it kind of people are going to want to read it. It's going to be just completely black and white though, so that people can just print it off themselves. Let me just. Sent. Let me go to my sent inbox because then I'll be able to find it faster. Sorry. So the idea is we go and we just shove through 100 doors, and then where is my stuff? Oh, there we go. Here's the copy. So it just goes through the door, and then somebody who is excited and interested can go and print it out on their printer and then go do another 100 doors. That's kind of the idea behind it, so that we then start having a perpetual amount of people just going and doing it. So I kind of shared a little bit of sales tactics and understanding before, and it falls into that. So if I go and do 100 doors, out of there chances are 3 people are likely to be kind of proactive. So they can then do another 100 doors. They can then do another 100 doors. So it's using the same premise as the whole recall thing, where we just all go in. Yeah. So they will still end up in the global recall space. So everybody's going to still go there. So this is the there. This is kind of, it's super simple, but it's going to be more exciting. So the title, yeah, I thought I'd have to switch this silly thing. The title is, Do You Really Know What You Think You Know? Now, this is, for anybody who wants to kind of do sales, this is quite interesting. So this has an emotional value of like 55. So it's something called the headline analyzer, which enables you to check how emotive your headlines are. And this is also super curious. So the idea is that it will be folded like this letter here, which I'm going to share with you in a bit, when it comes through the door. So just folded into 3. And the thing that they see is like the big title that will just land on the doormat. I mean, it might land upside down, but we're going to hope for the best. And it'll just say, like, do you know what you think you know? That'll be like the full title. So when you're trying to get people to, you need to be curious. So somebody's going to pick it up and be like, what the hell's this all about? So that's the idea. We need people to just kind of pick it up. I did, me and Pixel did talk about an envelope, because then people are most likely to open it, maybe open it if it's like handwritten. But I want to make sure that even somebody who's, struggling financially can still take part, and rather than piling on, not only just piling on the money, you start then piling on the time and effort. If people have just got to fold it and shove it through a door, you can go do it in the cover of darkness if you don't want people to know that it's you who's doing it. But the other thing is that, I would like it on the back will be just one of our little posters. So, how do they know it's COVID variant? But so all of those kind of little things that we made stickers, they'll be able to download as posters, and they can stick a poster in a window. And that works really effectively. So it's something that political campaigns do. They put a leaflet through the door and then say, stick me in your window so we know who you're voting for. So that is free advertising. I need to just I need to sort my bay window out. I've got all of them printed out that I'm just going to kind of like fill up the, the windows. Somebody keeps lifting on my stickers. So it starts with respect for a patient's autonomy is expressed in consent law to impose care or treatment on people without respecting their wishes and right to self-determination is not only unethical but illegal. So the point of this is twofold. Has it gone blank for you? That's a bit weird. That was weird. The point of this is twofold. One, so that somebody who is not necessarily awake or a little bit awake. So one, to help wake people up, and 2, for somebody who's awake to not freak out, to know that they've got options and know that they're supported and know that they're looked after. So we want to kind of capture both of those types of people. You're going to, there are other type, people will fall on other places in the spectrum, but there will be people who maybe they've been jabbed. So again, we've got to be really careful about what we say, because at some point they're going to wake up, but actually I want them thinking first. So the other reason why it's a true false quiz is they're going to realize how much they don't actually know. And for those people who've been jabbed, that's going to be enough of a bit of a freaking shock that they've had this thing and they don't understand these things. So it's all going to be referenced, and it'll all so the idea is they'll then go to the website page, which has got all the links and all the references, and they can download and print and then join their local area, so that they can go and make sure that they're not putting through the same doors as they were before. So the questions are, number 1, COVID tests can tell you which variant you have. Now, this is a really important question because at the moment, this is the fastest way to fight through the entire narrative because people who are frequent testers, so there will be people who are being tested twice a week just to go to work, and other people who were the only individuals anybody ever saw queuing up at the testing sites. They will know that it's just a positive and negative, but they won't have even considered that somebody's telling porcupines by saying, it's the Delta variant. How do they know it's the Delta variant? Because nobody's testing for different variants. They're just yes or no. Do you have this potentially infectious, but as in could also be an infectious bit of cold, but do you have this potentially infectious thing? Or, you may have had it like 6 months ago, still picking it up, but, we're not even going to talk about that kind of complicated stuff. But all they get is yes or no. So if they say yes, they're going to get a shock. So it doesn't matter. It's going to break that myth. That's what we need to do. We need to bust through the cloud of smoke and confusion. The survival rate of all ages who catch COVID-19 is 99.6%. And this is a number that was just never really spoken about. Ever. People are just obsessed with these vaccines, and you try and say, yeah, but we're all right. It doesn't matter. You're fine. You're not going to die. This is everybody. This is including the old and the young. So elderly, those over 85, I believe. I can't remember specifically, but I will make sure I will get all these specifics down. Those over 85 have got a 95% chance of survival. So even if you're over 85, you were never. This was never something a huge amount of the population was ever going to die from. It never was. And obviously, we know that the fear is to get them jabbed because we know that you can't release something that is both hugely fatal and you can't control. That's what came out of the Senate committees is an effective bioweapon is controllable. And so, yes, they're spraying shit in the air, but that's just going to irritate us and maybe cause us harm long term. But you wouldn't want to spray like Ebola out of an airplane, and they wouldn't want to do that anyway, because remember, they want us gone so they can enjoy Earth. They want to be able to enjoy the Earth, which they wouldn't be able to do if they made the entire thing toxic. Porcupines, porcupines and lies. Porcupines. Telling porkies. So number 3, so true or false, the vaccine stops you from transmitting COVID-19 to someone else. Now, interestingly, this is the narrative has started to shift about this, which is funny the way that they're doing it. But still, that's the whole argument is well, I'm taking it, you need it because you're passing it on. Right, okay, but you've had the jab and you're still passing it on, so what's the point? So the vaccine clinical trials finish in 2022 and 2023. So I will, that will obviously show that the different vaccines are still in trial phases. And this whole thing, one of the things that makes me really frustrated about the fact that we're in the trial and people aren't talking about that is there's lots of people saying I had the vaccine and I'm fine, but they might have had the placebo. So they're only fine because they had saline. They're not fine because they had the vaccine and there's no complications. They're fine because it's a double-blind placebo trial. And what that means is the people don't know they're getting a placebo, but neither does the clinician. The clinicians don't know whether you're getting a placebo or not. And we know that because the vaccine minister in the UK stood up and said, well, whether you've had the placebo or not, and that's kind of the link. I'm going to say, he admitted you're in a trial. So even if you've had a placebo, you get a vaccine passport, but even though you've not had a vaccine, right? So why is somebody who's potentially had a placebo more dangerous? So we've got to be careful that they don't take this placebo narrative and then say that it's only those who had the placebo who are in hospital. So we've got to be careful about that one. But I mean, then people, if they start talking about that, then they have to admit that people are being coerced into a trial without realizing. So this is another one. The NHS website lists all the possible vaccine side effects, and that will give me an opportunity to go, this is what the NHS says, and this is what the yellow card data says, and this, so you're not being told. And then there's that video of the vaccine insert that's just completely empty, multiple videos of vaccine inserts empty. Then we've got the vaccine stops you from catching COVID-19. Still, people think that. Lots of people are, they're wearing their masks, but still people aren't paying that much attention. Children are high risk and need to be protected from COVID-19 by the vaccine. I mean, kids, they're not getting it. But that also then gives me an opportunity to show kids are all fine, but the kids' trials, again, explain, because the trials are happening. This is what's going on in the kids' trials. The vaccine has been approved for use. That gives me the opportunity to talk about 179, regulation specifics, and ivermectin. So this is like slowly being able to drip these bits of information and cause conflict. I want to cause conflict in their mind. So this is the little cognitive dissonance that they're going to get from thinking they know the information because they've been watching the BBC and the BBC's been telling them everything, realizing they don't know jack shit, then going and seeing that there's so much more they don't know. So we're going to need them to be angry. I need them to start moving. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make them angry. Angry at the right people. So this will be strategically angry at the people who are supposed to be giving them the information rather than them also. We need to kind of get this out before flu season hits and everybody starts dropping dead, because then they will be angry at us. They won't be angry at the government. They'll be angry at us for not warning them and not telling them. Number 9, the UK government has the lawful right to mandate vaccinations to protect vulnerable people from those choosing not to be vaccinated. And obviously that is the biggest freaking lie in the room, because they don't. And then number 10, if you're vegan, you can lawfully decline the vaccine for ethical and moral reasons, which is true. So why, what immune system, if you're vegan, so if you don't eat meat, does that mean you are not, if you're a meat eater, you're a super spreader? Is that, that's the craziness. So it's trying to show them the craziness, because they're not seeing the information. So we're going to go old school, door dropping, but door dropping with a purpose. So then that kind of first half is to get people to wake up, and the next half is about helping the people who are already awake and are just shitting themselves. So Montgomery versus Lanarkshire, and it's quite nice to see people talking about this now. And I did mention this, and we did a whole show on the 14th of April talking about this. So the experts and the people who are, here to save us on their white Gandalf horse started talking about this. Was it last week or the week before? So they've only just started talking about this, even though this was a 2015 ruling. And really easy to find this. Like, I had no idea about this. It was just when I started trying to figure out a way, when I was looking at a way out of this for us. And I was looking into consent, because I know that we're not getting consent, because I know we're being coerced, because I know of the psychological propaganda. So I came across this on the Royal College of Surgeons website. So it wasn't hidden. So what I'm getting at is there was no reason why the lawyers didn't fucking know, and no reason why the doctors and nurses don't know this. So this is key, is the medical professionals, like the surgeons, will know about this, and all of the medical professionals will be taught about this. This is what I keep saying to you, is they know about consent, they know about capacity, because it's taught. It is taught. and they know that they have to ensure the patient is given all of the information, because if they don't, then they can lose their medical license. So this is not a I didn't know. This is them choosing to just agree and believe with the people who are telling them what to do. And this makes me, I mean, I think it's insane. I think it's insane that they just have blind faith in the NHS, those who are working in the NHS, because they see the shit all the time. Like, if you speak to nurses and doctors about the fact that, you know, some people don't get medication over others, some people don't get the care they need, some people, you know, some doctors are terrible. Like, if you have a conversation with people in the NHS, they're open about all the corruption and all of the paper chasing and all of the backhanders that go on in the management. Yet all of a sudden, they're just blindly trusting. This is what's crazy to me. Crazy. Anyway, so Montgomery versus Lanarkshire, 2015, is a landmark judgment affecting the surgeon-patient relationship. The Supreme Court held that patients have the right to exercise autonomy over their own bodies and over the treatment they undergo. So just so you know, guys, this is important not just for the vaccine. That's me, I pressed the wrong button, sorry. This is important not just for the vaccine, but this also ties into the perpetual propaganda. So they are using psychological behavioral techniques to coerce somebody into an experimental gene therapy program. Now, in order for me to work with a client, is I have to get their consent. They have to consent, either verbally, because it's you know, all of my sessions are recorded, so verbally is fine, because it's recorded. But before I did everything online, like they would have to sign to fill. They would have to sign to say that they consent to treatment. So nobody has consented to the use of psychological behavioral techniques to change their beliefs and opinions. Like, this is not just nudging, or it is not it's not an educational program. Is they are actively altering your beliefs and treating. We are being treated like mentally unwell people, and so they are indoctrinating and brainwashing. So this is why this is really important. Is the government twofold, pushing you into the experimental program by not giving you all of the information, but actually they completely sidestepped the idea of consenting to the fear, the propaganda. Sorry. So if you decide to have the vaccination, you have a lawful right to ask the medical professional to explain all the possible side effects to you before you say yes. So for those who've had it, hopefully they're going to be like, what side effects? And they're going to go look. So I'm gonna make them angry. Okay, I'm going to make them angry. And then if you decide not to, so this is not me saying, this is not about us saying, do not have the vaccine, it's dangerous, you're going to, because you just lose people. Sorry. We just lose people that way. We have to make sure this is done in a way that it causes them cognitive dissonance, and then they take the steps to do research. And this is, okay, so this is me using psychological behavioral techniques in order for them to wake up. Okay, so I just want them to look at the information. They can choose to do whatever the hell they want with that information, but you know, this is full disclosure. This is also an important treatment method. So think about it like this. So for those of you who drive, you sat in the driving seat and you got a freaking annoying passenger, right? And they tell you, you know, maybe you're too close to the car in front, or you know, they're dictating which route you should go, even though you're the one driving. Like, just, that's the easiest way to explain it. Like, instantly you go on the defensive and you just shut down. You don't want to listen. Your mind's going crazy at how dare they do those things. However, if the passenger just says to you, something with regards to it just talks about the weather, and in a roundabout sort of way just says, oh my god, it was absolutely pelting it down the other day, and I didn't realize how close I'd got to the car in front, and then they slammed on the brakes and I absolutely crapped myself. So you could do that, and I like, that's a really sneaky way to get somebody to kind of pay attention. If it's raining, if it happens to be raining and they're a bit too close, you can kind of slip in under the radar, but then it's up to them to step back or not. So that's what we're doing. We're slipping in under the radar. And for those of you who are living with people who are struggling emotionally, that's a really powerful way to support them. I call it like dropping and running. You just drip feed a bit of information and change the subject. So, it'd be like, or say you're having the vaccine conversation with somebody who's full on vaxxer, you could just drop in, hey, do you know what? Like, I think it's crazy. They keep talking about this Delta variant, and like every time you get tested, it just says yes or no. Do you want a cup of tea? That's how you do it, because it's non-confrontational. That bit of information slipped under the radar into their subconscious, and it's going to start causing them havoc. So I know some of you, we've had conversations before where you're saying, okay, well, how do I help people I know to kind of wake up? So you're going to be able to use this document as well to have conversations with people. So all of those little true or false statements, you can be like, oh my God, I read this thing the other day and it said, if you've got COVID vaccine, you can still transmit it to other people. Isn't that crazy? Do you want tuna on your sandwiches or peanut butter? So you're not making it a thing. You just slip that tiny little bit of information, which is going to cause them to wake up, or just cause a little bit of rattling around in their brain with realizing that something's a bit crazy. So when we come full, when we're face on at somebody, it's just their defensive mechanism will go up. So anytime you feel like you want to have a shouting match, imagine you're that driver and somebody is freaking backseat passenger driving, talking to you and just driving you freaking crackers. So you need to get that person invested. Like, that individual needs to be like, well, that's just a weird thing to say. I'm just going to have a little look. They have to do their own research. This is the point. This is why the Great Awakening psychological operation is a powerful psyop, because it's not about brainwashing. It's about just drip feeding somebody information so that they go and find out for themselves. Because you convince you. Like, other people can't convince you of things. You decide to buy into something and then off you go. So then, if you decide not to have the vaccination, here's what you should know. If you're a parent, say Bell versus Tavistock 2020. So for those of you who aren't aware, this is the case that happened last year. I think it was November, maybe November, December, October, November time. It's the 16-year-old girl who had been given. So it's that Tavistock is the Tavistock. The Tavistock is in the place that does all the gender swapping, and Belle is the young girl who the Tavistock gave the drugs to. So she would obviously been brainwashed in school into believing that she should be a boy. She went to the Tavistock, and they never gave her any kind of psychological evaluation or anything. So they went in, she had a conversation, and then they just prescribed these hormone replacement drugs, and she was like full on the route to being biologically altered into a different gender. And I mean, I can't remember the ins and outs, but parents and stuff rallied around and supported her out of her teenage confusion. So teenagers are very, very confused about their identity. This is why they target them. And so when you put hormone replacement drugs into a teenager, so I'm female, I run on estrogen. Like, I do. men run on testosterone, girls run on estrogen. When you take all of my estrogen out and you pump me full of testosterone, you don't just fuck with my biology, you fuck with the way that my brain's working, or actually not working. So this is that case where they went to the Supreme Court. Well, it went to they're trying to overturn it. So the Good Law Project, just so you know, the Good Law Project is trying to overturn this, and this becomes very sinister. So this is saying that children are not able to provide Gillick competency, which means that they can't say yes to experimental treatments. So that when I'm sure she was 14. So as a 14-year-old, she did not understand enough that what she was buying into. And for those of you who can remember being a teenager and you fall out with a friend, like, it feels like your entire world is imploding. It's just your hormones. You're crazy as a teenager. So this is really important and powerful, and I love this because what I want to see overturned is the criminal age of responsibility. Also overturned should be the grey area in the consent laws. So they've now said that children can't be competent enough to understand an experimental treatment. But at the moment in our laws, at the age of 10, you can understand that you're murdering somebody. You can also, what's happened in Scotland is they've now said at the age of 4, you can pick your gender. So you see how all of this is just fucked up. Now, the reason why Scotland's done that is because they want the child consent age dropped to 4. So the World Health Organization is saying that, children of 4 need to be taught masturbation. Scotland have just said that children of 4 can pick their gender. And if you can pick your gender, you can consent to having sex. If you can pick your sex, you can consent to having sex. Now, if we look back at history, what you'll see is when they lowered the age of criminal responsibility to age 10, which was for the Bulger killers, that's also the same time Pi was trying to get the age of consent to in law age 10. So you drop the age of consent criminal responsibility, and then you just say, oh, well, actually, if they can commit a crime and be tried as an adult for murder, then actually they can consent to something like sex. So this is what you've got to watch out for. And this is why I get very frustrated with everybody kind of like one track mind, because you're missing what else is going on and everything. Like they've got this spider web plan that is all feeding into each other. But anyway, so this is still as it stands, that right now children they can't consent. So as an adult, you have parental responsibility. If you are parent or carer or guardian, that's you, your children cannot agree to a vaccination in school, and the school, should they try and do it, is you can sue the individuals for battery. So the law is it's battery is what you go under. Where's my page gone? So they have a lawful right to sue if your employee, aside from the obvious human right concerns of forcing employees to be vaccinated, employers could put themselves at risk of discrimination claims and would struggle to effectively force them to get vaccinated. And that was written by BMA Law in 2021. So should your employer attempt to coerce you to have a vaccination to keep your job, you have a lawful right to sue under tort law. And if you've experienced side effects because of the vaccine, a significant proportion of clinical negligence claims are settled simply because valid consent was not obtained. That's it. So this is why I keep banging on about consent, and finally, other people are paying attention. So anybody who's been injured by the vaccines, you may not be able to go to Pfizer or Moderna or AstraZeneca and sue them, but you sue the individual who shoved it in your arm, because they're the ones who had a legal and lawful responsibility to ensure that you had informed consent. so that you understood the risks. That's their job, is to explain to you all of the risks. And I'm going to talk to you about my doctor's appointment on Monday, just so you'll get to. Oh yeah, you'll see just how insane. How insane they are, but the difference in way that they are treating this compared to everything else. So, for those of you who know me, you know that I'm very heavily involved in mental health. But there was a case a couple of years ago where a man, so one of the pharmaceutical companies had created a new antidepressant, and in their leaflet, in their insert, they hadn't put suicidal ideation. So even though the clinical trials had shown suicidal ideation was the same as many of the other competitors, they chose not to put it on the insert. So what that meant is lots of and this is over in America, lots of doctors were prescribing their drug over the other ones because they read the insert and they thought, this has got no suicidal ideation, this is a safer drug. So there was a woman who successfully took the pharmaceutical company to court because her husband was struggling, but he'd never had any suicidal thoughts at all. And within 2 weeks of starting on a medication, he'd walked off a train platform into an oncoming train. And so that came out of nowhere. And he'd been and seen, I'm pretty sure he'd been and seen a psychologist or psychotherapist, and there was no history of suicidal ideation in any of his medical notes or procedures, and it just wasn't on the thing. So she had the evidence to prove his suicide was directly caused by, not correlated with, was caused by these medications. So had that been on the insert and the doctors not given it, she would also have then had legal recourse against the people who prescribed. So it's their job to explain what the risks are of the things that they are prescribing. That's what they're paid to do, is to understand all this information. And you can be forgiven for thinking, yeah, but there's lots of drugs. It's all on a freaking thing for them. When they type what your issues are, right? They type what your issues are, and then they kind of, it tells them these are the key things that I must explain to them. And they always should give you the information in the leaflet as well anyway. And they also say, make sure you go home and read the leaflet. So if you've given the leaflet and they've given you information and it's not on there, and this is the thing, is there is no consent. So that's all you need. Like, there has been no consent for any of these vaccines because not one individual knows that they are in a clinical trial until afterwards. So even if the NHS had every single thing on their website, if they don't have, you are part of a double-blind placebo trial, you haven't consented, because you haven't consented to the vaccine trial because you think it's an approved thing. Anyway, so that's what you need to do. You just need to prove there was no consent, and you can prove there was no consent because if you'd have known, you wouldn't have taken it. So in theory, where harm has befallen the patient and consent was not obtained, this could also give rise to claims for assault and battery, and in the extreme cases, criminal charges. And it says, fortunately, this is exceptionally rare. Well, it's only exceptionally rare because people don't know about it, but it's assault or battery. So for anybody who forces you into a vaccine, that's what you go after them for, assault and battery. And precedent is already set, and it might just be set for doctors and nurses as part of the NHS, but actually it doesn't matter because no other organisation has been in a position before where they have forced you to have any kind of medical treatment. So it's just the same, it's the same stuff. So disregarding the GMC's advice, so that's the General Medical Council's advice on consent, can sometimes result in charges of professional misconduct and action by the GMC on the doctor's registration. So that's the second part of it, is you just get them struck off. Now, if you think about all of the people who've been injured by the vaccines, if only 1% of them filed a lawsuit and filed misconduct by the GMC, very quickly the NHS would just disintegrate. If one person in the care homes, think about all the care homes where all of the elderly were jabbed and then weeks later everybody was dying. Like, nobody's suing. And this is why they started with the elderly, is because the families, a lot of them, they don't have families, or they don't have families who are close enough. And this is why they aren't doing the autopsies, because you can't prove what it was. So you have the right to see the person who issued the vaccine under tort law and claim compensation directly from the government as part of the vaccine damage payment scheme. Because I want them to know that actually, so on the vaccine damage payment scheme, COVID-19 vaccines listed. So it's not very much money, but it's not about the money. It might be for the people, and they will be able to get all the money that they need eventually. But the fact is, if they're saying these are safe, so why would there be a damage payment scheme set up? Why would it be set in there? So you can't have the narrative that the media is pushing, that the vaccines are fine, the vaccines are safe, these adverse reactions are just a sore arm, the deaths are nothing, the Bell's palsy, it's not because of the vaccines, but yet the government is saying, yeah, here you go, you can have some money for it. And the other thing as well, if everybody starts claiming, then we just bankrupt the government. Like, this is where we go. You just bankrupt them. It's all our money anyway. I mean, it's all fake money anyway. But that's kind of that. So that will be kind of squished onto one page. Those will be upside down, like you see on the newspapers. So quite small, and then they'll go to the right place once they've done the link. So it's going to be super simple. It's going to be giving everybody the information that they need, and enable like people who are asleep to kind of get the cognitive dissonance. Maybe somebody who's had a vaccine, going to get them angry enough, but actually start suing. And all of those we want people to just start taking action. So we're going to make people angry and going to enable people who are awake and are freaking out feel safe. So that's the first bit. Second bit is I'm going to tell you about mine, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Matt's doctor's appointment as well, because that's really funny. And then we'll go into a bit of news. So first things first, Matt went to the So Matt's had he's had a dry cough for years and years and years, and he's been on the list to get it seen, and they try him on lots of different drugs, and he does work with industrial flooring, so it might be one of the chemicals that he's using, but it might not be. There's no kind of rhyme or reason for it. But anyway, so he he went for a scan on his chest, and the chest was fine. The chest scan was fine. So there was no issues with his chest, no scarring, no nothing. And so the doctors had given him multiple. They tried him on the antihistamines I'm on. They tried him on some other stuff, and so nothing was right. So I had to go and speak to the doctors. So he rang them, because you're not allowed to just rock up. So he rang them and had a telephone appointment, and then the doctor wanted to see him straight away. This is on Sunday. It's quite funny. And Matt walks in without a mask, because he won't wear one, which is well done, Jax. But he said the doctor came out in a full hazmat suit with oxygen, and was treating him like he was a radioactive Chernobyl escapee. I was just like, well, how many people were in there? It's like, it was just me. There was nobody else in there. And I was like, what about the receptionist? He said, well, the receptionist, she had a mask on. I was like, but does she not think, holy shit, I'm here with just a mask on, and the doctor's wearing a freaking hazmat suit? I was like, no, she just kind of oh yeah, that's fine. I was like, but if it's an airborne something or other, she's in the freaking room just with her stupid little poxy freaking surgical mask. That was crazy. It's hilarious. I mean, and that's worrying. That's worrying, because that individual is responsible for many people's health, and does not have the intelligence to just go, they say there's a pandemic, but all of my old people who are kind of, on my books are still alive. Well, maybe they're not at the moment. but they say there's a pandemic, but where are all, like, surely this is what I don't understand. Like the medical professionals be, well, where are all the sick people? Like, where are they? Because I've not seen them. Anyway, my one wasn't quite as funny. Mine was full on propaganded. So I've got the implant rod in my arm. I'm getting it out, and I've been meaning to get it out for years. It goes in for 3 years, but when it was due to come out, they shut everything down. So it was due to come out, and they shut everything down. And I'm not putting it back in because I've now found out all like horrific things about it. And it makes sense that it's blocking my estrogen. Like, these things just happen. So I put it off because it's moved. So it's actually kind of embedded itself a little bit in the muscle. So it's not the case of, so this is my third one. I was just like, get it in, get it out, get it in, get it out. No babies here, please. And so normally they just kind of like slice it, and like a splinter, you just kind of like cut a little bit at the end and you kind of push a splinter out. That's what they do. They normally just slot one out, slice in the other arm and stick another one in. But they're going to have to cut quite deeply, and people are going to have to like hold my arm. It's going to be pretty gross, right? So I was putting it off, and then COVID hit, and then I was like, whew. But now I'm just like, no, I need it out. I want it out. So when I went, the first things first is, where's your mask? Have you got a mask? No, we've got some there. No, thank you. She just looked at me. I just said, no, thank you. She said, well, you have to wear one because that's what the government has said. The government has said that, yes, it's choice everywhere except in medical facilities. And then I was just like, no, I'm exempt. It's like, I'm not arguing with you. I just need you to get this shit out of my arm. And so she just kind of looks at me as if to say, I'm going to find out whether you aren't or not because I'm the one dealing with you. And I was like, yeah, bring it. Bring it because I am. Because I am. But it doesn't matter. So I went in and she was sat down and the first question was, have you been vaccinated? No. Why not? Because I choose not to get vaccinated. Well, you need to have the vaccine. I was like, I don't have to have the vaccine if I choose not to have the vaccine. It was freely offered to everybody, and I, chosen not to. And she said, well, I know that lots of people have been worried and there's been questions about fertility and all of those things. And I was like, that's not why I'm not having it. I'm just choosing not to have it. She's like, well, there's brand new, hot off the press. This is what she was saying to me this morning. Brand new, hot off the press, that the Midwifery Council, the GMC, and Public Health England have come out and said that all of the research and all of the trials have concluded now with regards to women and fertility and pregnancy, and there is no risk to anybody. I was just like, oh my gosh. They've only just started recruiting for the pregnancy trials. I mean, I'm not pregnant. This is not where this is going. But this is you get your thing done in the sexual health clinic, right? But she's trying to put me at ease by telling me that it's okay because mum's pregnancy and mums are the most at risk, right? And then she's saying, and they've discovered that, if you do want to have babies, I was like, that's not why this isn't coming out. This is coming out because I know how dangerous this is for my body. And it's moved and I don't want it to end up in my heart, which is what sometimes also happens when they move. Like, this is why it needs to come out because it's not in the right place. I know I don't want another one because I don't freaking trust them anymore. This made me really sad. She said, if you do want to get pregnant, then you will have to have the vaccine because there's a 50% increase in stillbirths in people who are pregnant, who haven't had the vaccine, and they catch COVID, right? That's literally the words that came out of her mouth. And what I wanted to do was shout, how do you know that when it's a double-blind placebo trial and 50% of the people who are supposedly being vaccinated have had saline? So how can you say that? Because they're not talking about who's been salined and who hasn't been salined. Also, how the fuck do you know that? Because just because somebody tests positive for coronavirus, it doesn't mean they have COVID. If somebody who is pregnant is rushed into hospital, chances are there's a problem with the fucking pregnancy. Just because the NHS shoves something up their nose and then says, "Oh, we've cycled it at 45 cycles, and now you've also got a cold." That's the lie. And the NHS is being caught out by saying people, 50% of the people who were COVID cases were actually, they didn't show up for COVID. They came for everything else, and they freaking jabbed them in the nose after they'd got there. So that entire sentence, everything was just bollocks. And the thing that really hit me was I could tell how much this lady cares. That's what was really sad. And I don't see this in my mum. And this is not because my mum doesn't care. It's because she's my mum, right? And I'm just like, she just does my head in. And I know it's coming from the same place, but you could see she was genuinely concerned for my health. And so that made me really, really sad, because the doctors and nurses like her, who she's been double jabbed, she will have been double jabbed, right? Is when they realize that they have unknowingly but willingly vaccinated and potentially killed all of these people because they chose to trust somebody blindly rather than use their own freaking training and understanding of how vaccines, of how viruses spread, to ignore all of the stuff that they've seen with their own eyes. And Tori mentioned something. I think it was yesterday's show where she just kind of said offhandedly, once everything gets out, is you will start seeing doctors and nurses committing suicide because they won't be able to cope. So now here's the thing, is like, I mean, there's no way I'm having the vaccine. I mean, I'm not. I never was. But if you were somebody who'd maybe seen a few things and you were just unsure, the things that she was saying and the way that she was saying it, that would convince some people in that room to go get it. And all those people who want to go and have children, who are now being told is that you must have the vaccine before you even attempt to get pregnant because it's safer for your baby, which is what people are getting pregnant. That's what they want. They want a safe baby. It's safer for your baby. Your baby will be born healthy with the vaccine, but chances are if you don't have the vaccine, you're going to kill it. That's pretty much the essence of that conversation. Is they're going to go, if they've been teetering and wavering because they don't really understand the vaccine stuff, maybe thinking, I don't want aborted fetal cells. They don't like the idea of those things. That's what they're going to go do. And then, I mean, they're not going to be able to go get pregnant. This is why they're now doing it. So before you have a baby, so before you even think about getting pregnant, you must have the vaccine, because this is their end goal, is you destroy the population. Yes, the people will die quickly, but actually the majority will just never be able to reproduce. That's, you just within a generation, you've got no babies coming. And we've already seen those fake wombs. We've already seen that they just grow babies in tubes. So We don't need, and we're not allowed, rules for thee and not for me. We're not allowed to have children because we are a threat to the world. We are a threat to the planet. So everybody's focused on the immediate effects. And so here's my reasoning with regards to why they're now boostering people is they will be boostering those who've been salined, because lots of people who've been salined won't have had the vaccine yet. So they will be making sure that at some point, all those who've had the saline jab will be getting vaxxed up. Penelope said, so far as I know, 10 people close to me that have had the jab, J&J, Moderna and Pfizer, and no one yet has passed. Whew, a few fevers. But I've said, I hope you received the placebo for the trial. Yeah. When you have the booster jab, that's another hope. Yes. It is a trial. And that's why I think the boosters will be. And the reason why they're rushing the booster jabs, because do you remember a couple of months ago, the booster jabs were going to be every 12 months. And now they're saying the efficacy has gone after 6 months. So they're rushing the boosters because they need to, they need their plan to work. They need to start killing people. They need people to start dropping dead so that they can freak everybody out again, and the stupid people will go and get the vaccine who haven't had the vaccines. It's what they do. They need people now to drop dead. Whereas they didn't want that happening. They wanted it to be slow because they needed to make everybody infertile before people started dropping dead. That's why there was the time delay on the mass deaths from the vaccine, because it doesn't matter. You're going to kill them all anyway. At some point, you're going to kill them all. But it was, I almost got up and just walked out. Well, I was like, I need this thing on my arm. The only reason I'm here is because I need this thing on my arm. If she'd have said you need to have a test, a PCR test, I'd have got my phone out and I'd have recited the stuff that I put on the thing. But I do not consent to this medical procedure. I don't have symptoms. The World Health Organization is saying if you have symptoms, then get tested. I do not have symptoms. Therefore, I refuse this medically invasive procedure. Are you going to refuse to treat me? Anyway, so the other thing that kind of just randomly, the life of Matt and Katie, this little letter showed up today for Matt. So this is take a test to help the NHS plan for the autumn and winter. COVID-19 remains a threat. So this is from the Department of Health and Social Care. So that's the government lying. Imperial College London. So that's where Ferguson, and he does all his fake modelling. Ipsos Mori is the polling aid organisation, and the NHS. So all four of them are lying in that first statement. Measuring and understanding the spread of COVID-19 will help the NHS plan by providing an early warning of whether cases are increasing. Cases are not cases. This will allow everybody to continue to access the health services they need, considering nobody's been able to get the health service at all for 18 months. So we need to know levels of COVID-19 in the population so the NHS has the information it needs to early enough to plan for peaks in the number of people needing their services. So what they want people to do is shove PCR test up their nose so that Ferguson can create another fake model so that they can shut down. So this is what they're going after, another lockdown, right? So they want to do this at the same time they're booster jabbing and people are going to start dropping dead, because that's what happens when you reintroduce the virus. Is you all drop dead. That's why coronavirus vaccines have never been authorized before. Now, here's where it gets really interesting in this little letter. It says, how did you get my contact details? Your name was chosen at random from the NHS list of patients registered with a GP. So the other people who've had this letter all happen to be individuals who've not been vaccinated. So what they will have done is they are selectively targeting the unvaxxed to try and coerce them into getting a PCR test. Because what happens is if it comes back positive, your information will be passed on to the NHS so track and trace can contact you. This is what they're doing. They're going to come after you. If you're unvaxxed and never had a test, chances are you're going to get this. Now, I have, so Matt got his message to go get vaxxed about a week or so before I did. Now, I have opted out of the NHS sharing my information. I've opted out of the digital information sharing. And that, so when I was in the doctors on Monday, she said, you said you've got allergies. You said you're exempt. Why? And I said it's because I've got allergies. That's also the other reason why I'm not having the vaccine, because I've got like really bad allergies, and they say don't take it because you can freaking die from it. So she can't access my general NHS medical records because they're the sexual health clinics, so they run different systems, and so I've opted out. So if I get one of these letters, so I'm very excited for my letter to come through the post, because that is the NHS breaking data protection and going against I have not consented for them to share my information with anybody. And I'm pretty sure Matt did, but he can't remember whether he did or he didn't. He can't remember whether he actually got around to doing it or not. I'm pretty sure I did it for both of us. So usually I just kind of do it and then tell him afterwards. It's like so I'm pretty sure I did both him and I at the same time. So if the letter comes from me, then I will be suing the NHS for a breach of data protection, because I never consented for them to give these individuals my details, for them to contact me. Definitely not for market research. This is what this is. This is market research. This isn't the pharmacist. So I have my prescription, supposedly. You can't get hold of it. But so supposedly my prescription automatically goes to my local pharmacy, but that's because I consented for my prescription to automatically go there. So just that, they don't have any of my other bits of information, but just that I consented to. So I have not consented to the NHS passing my information to Imperial College London or Ipsos Mori or the Department of Health and Social Care. And I bet you guys haven't. So if you remember, if you've had one of these letters and you remember opting out of the NHS sharing your information, like that's a breach of data protection. Naughty, naughty, naughty. So why has Imperial College London and Ipsos Mori got access to your medical records? I mean, they don't have all your medical records, but they will have access to your name and address, which was given to them by the NHS. They will have access to the fact that chances are that you are, I mean, they might not know. They may not know which data the NHS has pulled. They may not. However, the NHS is purposely giving your private information to other organizations for market research. So when you all of those stupid terms and conditions, when you download an app, in those terms and conditions, you always have to say yes to everything, don't you? Yes to everything, otherwise you can't use the app. So in there it'll say we pass your information on to a third party, or we don't. So if they say we don't pass your information on to a third party and then they do, that's a breach of contract. So this is why this is hilarious. So what they're also telling you is that once you get your test results, they will be passing on. Right, here we go. So this is the information that they're giving to Ipsos Mori. Your first name, your surname, your sex, your date of birth, your NHS number, your ethnicity, your address, and if your test is positive, your telephone number and email address. Why do they need your NHS number? Why do they need your access? Why do they need to know your NHS number? What are they gonna do with that? Like, why do they need that? Like, I don't even know my own freaking NHS number. In order for me to get my NHS number, I have to go to the doctors in person with a form of ID. So I have to take either my passport, my driving license, in person to prove I am who I say I am, but ipsos mori, get it just given to them by the NHS if you do a swab. And Imperial College, London, get it. And the Department of Health and Social Care, get it. So are they going to decide that you're not allowed your prescriptions and your medication because you decided not to take part? Like, this is really dodgy, really dangerous. I don't think people are paying attention to this letter too much. It also says no information will be published, it doesn't matter, but Imperial College London may link the results to other health information that the NHS holds on you. Why did they want the rest of your information? That's not automatic, you have to agree to that, right? But it doesn't matter because they have the capacity ready to do that. So no data is safe. No data on the internet is safe. The NHS has already freaking been done for leaking information. I mean, they are like, the NHS is a freaking sieve when it comes to information. It's not a bowl, it's a sieve. So if you've had one of these letters, you are unvaxxed and you remember opting out, like, this is a breach of data protection because they've passed your information on without your consent to a market research company and a college and a university to carry out. This is what this is. This is to carry out experiments. I didn't opt in for this. I opted out of you sharing my data inside the NHS. They definitely have never told the NHS they can share my NHS number with a market research company. Dodgy. I said Matt screwed it up, so he was just like, fuck this shit. And I was like, there is evidence. So Penelope says population reduction is the goal and control. That would be the better way by blocking any births except the ones they choose. Yeah. I say this because if all the jab drop dead same time-ish, what will we do with the mass overflow of sudden deaths? Currently, as of today, don't think we're ready yet for that. 2 years from now may be different. I don't know. Yeah. And I don't think we'll wake up one morning and all the jabbed will be dead. I think it'll be a slow increasing process. It'll be a kind of rolling avalanche because people have different levels of immunity. People have different health levels and fitness levels. And because it may interact with people a slightly different way. And one of the things that Tori, when she was explaining the jab, is, you have to create, so your body has to create the proteins that it binds to. So that's why you need more and more and more. So the proteins bind easier. So if you have got a super resilient system, then you may get the jab and then survive for many years. Particularly for those of us in Europe, we've got quite a good chance. I mean, not say it's still going to fuck with your DNA, still going to cause you havoc, but actually we have that random gene that was built into the European genetic code after the Black Plague. So it's be harder to jab us, but sorts of things. But hence the booster shots. So they need the booster shots because they need people to be creating the spike protein faster. But they're trying to jibbity jab everybody and trying to I'm in the wrong place. Sorry. Trying to jab everybody and also trying to, stop everybody giving birth. Right. let's start with, oh, this is going to make it difficult. Is that the right one? I can't see which one's which. Oh, look at that. I found the right one straight away. Well done. So, oh gosh. So this is a little mini video. So we're going to start with the new. Oh, I keep pressing the wrong button. There. No. There we go. It says sound works. Let's see. Let's see. Come on, something silly.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, what do you see?
So that's a gentle reminder that we can't, unless you are physically in a room with somebody touching them, you cannot believe what you're seeing, ever. I may not even look like this, right? I could be a 6-foot black guy. You wouldn't know, and that's kind of like it's a bald white guy was pretending to be Morgan Freeman. So you don't know that this is what I look like. You don't know this is what I sound like. You don't unless you genuinely know me. And you've met me in person, and you've tried to pull my mask off. I don't know. You can't. So you've got to be really that. I mean, I could also be a robot. I could be a clone. I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm not. I could be an alien in a meat suit. We just don't know. I could be using a portal device and actually be located in a completely different part of the world. Like, all of these things are just gentle reminders that lots of the stuff that we see are not just from, we recognize that potentially the stuff that comes from the BBC and places like that are fake news, but we forget that the controlled opposition is doing the exact same shit. Yeah, not with allergies. Well, yeah. But I could be making that up. No, you guys have seen me freaking snot o'clock. I could just be a very good actress. Yeah, so we've got to remember that just because you can see it, it doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean what you're seeing. Everything's just frozen on me. So I think I'm still talking. Yeah, I can still talk, but everything's frozen. So it just, when you see anything, just don't automatically trust it. And I see, like the Afghanistan stuff, I said on Saturday, I don't know what I believe about that. I've seen videos where, the airplane, the windows are stuck on. I've seen information shared that people are being beheaded. I've seen, but it doesn't mean it's all true. Doesn't mean it's all from today. Doesn't mean it's not true. Doesn't mean it's been done in Afghanistan. Like we have no idea. Even if it's a video, it could be people in a freaking green screen room making the entire thing up because they've got form of doing that. This is really frustrating. I don't know what's going on. My whole screen's gone blank. So we just got to be really careful. And so my thoughts, anything that is pushing kind of fear, is just to stay away from it. Stay away from it because it's not helpful. Potentially, we need to kind of keep abreast of the cabal's plans, but we don't need to be kind of perpetuating that terrified energy that people are being trapped in. We are very lucky still in the West, that we aren't having to experience something's like flashing. Oh, well, I say in the West, but Australia are experiencing some freaking craziness. But Australia, I mean, they should just freaking stand up. Like, just get off their fucking knees. And I don't. So we had the protest that happened, and they broke through the barricades, and I think that was staged. I think that was staged. I don't believe that was real. As not that it wasn't real, but I don't believe that was just happen. I believe that was staged because what they're trying to do is push the protests. That's what came from that. It was an opportunity to show people that protesting works because we have the numbers. We can go and do these things. But has it made any difference at all whatsoever? No, they're still locked down. A guy stood up in their parliament, and said, "We will never shoot." I mean, we should never shoot on our citizens again. But they probably will. They don't give a shit. Oh, this is really bad. This entire thing's just frozen. I don't know what to do because I can't press any buttons. If I press refresh, is it going to cut me off? Guys, I might just refresh. So if I'm still here, I'm still here. If not, I will come straight back. Can I can't even refresh. You press F5, don't you? Shift and F5? I'm here. That's cool. So I don't know whether it started up on a second one or whether it just kind of shut down and then came back. So let me just mute just to check. Because it says that I'm still here, but sometimes it doesn't work. Oh, yeah. So I've just seen Penelope chatting, so that's okay. I wasn't sure whether it was just telling me that I was back because it does that sometimes. It's just like, I'm here, I think I'm here. And then I'm just not. Awesome. Okay, Coke. I see. Creepy. No, it's not. I know. I was trying to share something then. It'd be interesting what I was sharing. So I'm just trying to share the entire thing, make it easier for myself. I hope. Yes, it's brought all of them. I mean, I've got all the tabs open, so I was just like, oh my god, we're gonna have no news if I can't share those tabs. Right. Let's put me back here. So I'm going to start with this little life site article. So, Obama-era report recommended strategic deception of Americans during national crises. So, a 2010 report from the Department of Defense considered deception tactics to solve wicked problems like public health issues in the United States. So, we have to remember, so 2010 is a year after the failed H1N1 swine flu pandemic. So what we're seeing with COVID is the replication of that same thing. And then they did it 2000 with anthrax. So it's the same story. But so this is every time they fuck up, they just try again and put extra things in place. So that's what happened. So the narrative failed. So how do we fix this? Right, we're going to make sure this time round we're going to have that. So they already knew that they needed a way. So the difference between swine flu and today is the propaganda mill, the media. So during the whole swine flu pandemic, I was at university. I went to university late, and I was knocking. It was summer holiday. I was knocking on doors for charity. You get paid like £10 commission anybody who signs up. So I was the biggest charity case because I was shit at it. And so I was knocking on doors, talking to people, person to person. And this is during the height of the pandemic. And there were 2 doors that I came to out of the entire summer doing 7 days a week. That had a sign on the door that said, "Please stay away. I've got swine flu." And that was it. And that was so it was in Liverpool, across the entirety of all the different places in Liverpool. There was just 2 doors. And I don't know what the media were doing, but there wasn't the panic. So they needed control of the media, but they also needed to ensure that every single individual had access to a mobile phone. So also back in 2010, 2009, there were mobile phones, but they weren't as sophisticated. They were still, let's be honest, they were still pretty shit. They were just starting to kind of be useful, but in general, they were pretty crappy. So the technology needed to be advanced enough that they could have the propaganda mill going. That's what they needed, and which is quite interesting that they thought they could get away without it, because that's what made the Nazis so effective, was the propaganda. It's weird. Anyway, so this article further discusses the possibility that COVID-19 and other recent events may have been strategic deceptions used as a method to achieve global political goals. The more one researches, the more one discovers the possibility of such a deception being planned many years in advance due to the extensive involvement of US federal government entities like the Department of Defense, the FBI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the National Security Council, in planning and preparing for bio-incidents, which include naturally occurring virus pandemics. Naturally occurring. Due to space limitations, this article cannot completely elaborate on multiple US government documents or government officials' actions and statements, which, when combined, provide a basis for such a claim. And such documents include, and I'm going to drop the links because it's got all of these, they've got links to all of these, right? Let me drop, this is the, might not let me share this. I think LifeSite News is, oh no. It's banned on some platforms. So we've got the final report of the Defence Science Board Summer 2008 study on capability surprise, President Obama's National Security Council, President Obama's 2016 executive order, which is advancing the global health security agenda to achieve a world safe and secure from infectious disease threats, the 2018 National Biodefense Strategy, the Department for Health and Human Services posting of the National Security Presidential Memorandum 14, support for national biodefense, the 2019 Biodefense Public Report, implementation of the National Biodefense Strategy, and the 2019 Executive Order modernizing influenza vaccines in the United States to produce national security and public health. So, researching the actions of the US federal government entities known as DARPA and BARDA may also be helpful. The following article mostly discusses the recommendation to use strategic deception found in the final report of the Defense Science Board Summer 2008 study on capability surprise. So, strategic deception and the use of cunning and lies in thoroughly pre-planned schemes, ruses, ploys, hoaxes, or other events have been used by the Chinese government for thousands of years against both China's enemies and China's inhabitants. Deception is used by such communist governments to solve arising political problems with the potential to thwart the government's control or expansion. The anti-scientific, arbitrary and draconian COVID-19 measures forcibly imposed and supported by US government officials during the past year, combined with other political and cultural events, seemingly perfectly timed to support the policies of the liberal globalist establishment in America and everywhere else, make one wonder if such strategic deception may be a method used by government officials in the United States. The phrase strategic deception implies that a government would not inform its citizens or enemies when such a method is being used. There is, however, significant information which suggests the possibility that US federal government, national security, or intelligence community officials may use widespread strategic deception in the US. So, Pentagon document recommends strategic deception in the US. Now, remember, so Kissinger was fired. So he was in the Pentagon. He was on the Defense Council in the Pentagon, and he was fired 2020 under Trump. So this would have probably very heavily been linked to things that him and Kissinger was handpicked by Committee of the 300 to do a lot of the funny business. So a major statement on the subject was made in an official US government document published during the Obama administration entitled Final Report. Because they're quite repetitive, aren't they? After describing that strategic deception is useful in inflicting surprise on the United States adversaries, the document writes that strategic deception may be key to solving wicked problems in the United States. The document then describes public health issues as wicked problems. Wicked problems is a technical phrase which will be explained in a moment. Additionally, the document notes that deception at any level is extraordinarily difficult, reliant as it is on the close control of information, running agents and double agents, that's your controlled opposition, and creating stories that adversaries will readily believe. At the strategic level, effective deception requires interagency cooperation that is tied to a political policy objectives. This should be a big deal. An official US government document recommends the possibility of strategic deception, cunning lies, hoaxes, false news stories, cooperation between the US government bureaus and departments to solve wicked problems in the US. So, wicked problems is a technical phrase used by sociologists to describe complex problems which have competing viewpoints and goals, and thus decision makers or politicians may disagree on potential solutions. Literature research on the phrase wicked problems leads one to quickly determine that it is often used to describe mostly leftist, globalist, establishment political policy objectives, which may be wrongly portrayed as problems. Some public health problems have been described as wicked problems, which may include pandemics and vaccine hesitancy. Others have described climate change, gun violence, poverty, food security, and the health of the environment as wicked problems. But the big deal, so just that these are plan. We've got plan A, plan B, plan C. Like these are their war plans. Depopulation agenda plans. But the big deal is the recommendation of an official US government document by influential national security personnel that strategic deception may be a key to solving wicked problems. So this is not all, though. The document then recommends that the US Secretary of Defense, along with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, establish an official deception entity with the US intelligence community, suggesting that the Secretary of Defense task both the Undersecretaries for Defense for Policy and Intelligence and the joint staff working with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to create a tiger team to lay out courses of action and a way ahead for establishing a standing strategic surprise stroke deception entity. Once the initial work has been completed, all parts of the interagency should be brought into this effort. In other words, it was recommended that the US federal government form what even the leftist mainstream media called an Office of Strategic Deception. It's unknown if such a deception entity or Office of Strategic Deception, including a Director of National Intelligence, was ever established by the US federal government. The establishment of a strategic deception entity to be used on American citizens would probably be kept a secret. So that is still not all of it, though. Oh, that is still not all, though. All of the 2010 documents recommendations were endorsed by Dr. Paul G. Kaminsky, the chairman of the Defense Science Board and a member of the FBI Directors Advisory Board at the time. Dr. Kaminsky is or was apparently well known and influential in the US government. This document was published in January 2010, and President Obama had made Dr. Kaminsky a member of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board in December 2009. As of 2018, Dr. Kaminsky was on the board of managers of the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory. President Biden's Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, was a former senior fellow at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory. So the links. Dr. Kaminsky was also on the Director of National Intelligence Advisor Boards, the InQtel Board, and the FBI Directors Advisory Board for several years, including after endorsing the recommendation of a strategic deception entity, potentially to be used to solve wicked problems in the United States. This is an important point because it has been said that rules or ploys and strategic deceptions are used often by the FBI. Other documents from the FBI and the DOJ also admit the use of deception as a method. The US federal government has labelled naturally occurring outbreaks of viruses, epidemics, as threats on national security, and investigations of biological or epidemiological outbreaks are apparently conducted by a combination of the FBI and the CDC. And that will probably be the lead for CDC rather than the actual one. So the CDC, that's the private entity, probably. In other words, the FBI is involved with national security, so it can be reasonably stated that strategic deception may be used on a national level in the United States. If the above recommendations to create deception entity to solve wicked problems in the US with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence was implemented, then one may reasonably wonder, since the part of the FBI is already overseen by the DNI, and if the FBI already uses strategic deception, would the FBI also be used for strategic deception to solve the wicked problems in the US? So the FBI has several locations throughout the world and coordinates closely with Interpol, and Interpol's headquarters in Lyon, France, and provides global security in 194 countries, including China, Russia, Turkey, Iran, and others. It may or may not be noteworthy that the FBI also has collaborated closely with the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. For example, in 2019, the FBI, together with the CDC, was giving workshops in Japan and the EU and South Africa. Several crises in the US within the last several years have appeared to be at least partly falsified. This has led reasonable people to question whether staged events or false flag operations and strategies have been used on Americans to achieve policies that would not be achieved without being prompted by an apparently falsified or strategically deceptive crisis. If, for example, US federal government officials decided that vaccine hesitancy, pandemics, and emerging infectious diseases like coronaviruses were wicked problems, then according to the cited US document, strategic deception may be a method used to solve such the problem. This official US document is significant proof for those who question whether the US federal government, national security officials, or other federal bureaus and departments may be using deception in such a manner. Some of the most influential US national security officials recommended the possibility of using strategic deception, which would likely include hoaxes and false flag operations on Americans to solve problems. One cannot be labelled a crazy conspiracy theorist for mentioning the use of deception as a possibility when it's considered that some of the most powerful and influential US national security and intelligence community government officials recommend it to solve problems in the United States. So, that is an interesting read. Okay. So we knew in the UK they're using behavioural techniques and nudges and all of those bits of information. It's part of the Hey Debs, it's part of the health strategy to use psychological brainwashing to nudge people in the right direction. And here's the thing: it's because it will be in the US's document. It'll be, chances are, in and around the same time in the UK. There will be maybe the Department of DoD, Department of Defense, has done something similar. So this is why it's quite handy to just see one, because if you know the time at which it was done, you can go a year before and a year after in your own country and find your own document. So we need all of these documents and these bits of evidence. But for anybody who, me personally, now that I know about the whole false flag idea, it's very easy to spot them. But rather than people calling you conspiracy theorists, you'd be like, well, they literally wrote that's what they were going to do. So there we go. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's literally in their strategy. This literally told you what they're going to do. Oh. Oh man. It's having issues. So this is from the Daily Expose. So investigations revealed that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are the primary funders of the UK's Medicine and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. So this is the MHRA. These are the people who've authorised the vaccine in the UK. These are the people who control what medication is used. I have donated. I had to get rid of you. Anyway, they also own the major shares in both Pfizer and BioNTech. So MHRA extended the emergency authorization of the Pfizer mRNA jab in the UK to allow it to be given to children between the ages of 12 to 15 on the 4th of June 2021. So with regards to everybody using everything around the world. Hi, Margil. Everybody using everything around the world. So because they authorized it in the UK for 12 to 15-year-olds, so now what we see in the US is like, oh, well, now we can do it for younger. And then they'll do it in Australia for maybe babies, and then everybody else, because it's the same, it's a global trial. So just because it's not happening in your country yet, it doesn't mean it's not happening in somebody else's country, that they are trialing it on a different part of the population. Different part of the population. So at the time, the chief executive of the MHRA, Dr. June Rain, said the MHRA had carefully reviewed clinical trial data in children aged 12 to 15 years and have concluded that the Pfizer vax is safe and effective in this age group, that the benefits outweigh any risks. We're left wondering if Dr. June Rain and the MHRA have even read the results of the extremely short and small study. And if they have, then they would have seen that 86% of children in the study suffered an adverse reaction ranging from mild to extremely serious. Just 1,127 took part in the trial. However, only 1,097 completed the trial, with 30 of them not participating after being given the first dose of the Pfizer jab. The results do not state why the 30 children did not go on to complete the trial. The information is publicly available and contained within FDA fact sheet, which can be viewed here. Click the link. There we go. Just So there was never any doubt the MHRA would give emergency authorization for the Pfizer BioNTech vaccines to be used in kids when you consider that a certain Mr. Bill Gates owned shares in both Pfizer and BioNTech as the primary funder of the MRHA. So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation bought shares in Pfizer back in 2002, and back in September 2020, Bill Gates ensured the value of his shares went up by announcing to the mainstream media in a CNBC interview that he viewed the Pfizer jab as the leader in the COVID vaccine race. He funds all of them, let's be honest. He's got money in all of them, so he doesn't really care. So this won't necessarily be about the money. This will be about the backhanded naughtiness contained in the Pfizer contracts, which we'll talk about in a minute. So this isn't because necessarily about the money. This is about all of it. Like he funds everything. He's got all the money and all the pies. He's classed as a country stroke state when dealing with the World Health Organization, Bill Gates. This is where people don't understand how well, it's not Bill anymore, is it? It's Melinda Gates. So they threw him under the bus because he was getting too much heat. But before they threw him under the bus with Epstein, they transferred everything to Melinda because they were getting divorced. You see that? And I said that'll be because they're hiding the assets. So she's now in charge. The handler is now in charge. So the only vaccine that, if everything went perfectly, might seek the emergency use license by the end of October with Pfizer. So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation also coincidentally bought 55 million worth of shares in BioNTech in September 2019, just before the alleged pandemic struck. So the MRHA received a huge grant, so just under $1 million. In 2017 for collaboration with the foundation. However, a Freedom of Information request for the MHRA responded to in May 21 revealed the current level of grant funding received from the Gates amounts to $3 million and covers a number of projects. Can we really trust the MHRA to remain impartial when its primary funder is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who also owns shares in Pfizer and they own Imperial College London. They've given money to, it's just everything. Everything is in there. But they've got links. So anyone who's giving links, they're good. They're worth a read with links. Where is that WHO video talking about the global C9 collaboration of testing bioweapon readiness? It says all of that they're doing. Was an Indian lady and he spoke the whole wording from the WHO website. I don't know who you're talking about. I'm not sure, sweet. You've got ash in the air from volcano eruptions. So there's a there's a British doctor. Is it Supta? Who's Indian? Who's been disappeared by the media. I don't know whether she's disappeared. And then there's the lawyer, the Indian lawyer, but that's only recent. I'm not sure, but okay. So staying on COVID, this popped up on my screen on the 22nd. What's this? On Sunday. So breaking news on this Sunday, vaccinated are still getting sick, but there's not enough data to explain it. Right, not enough data to explain it, yet they've been getting ill now for 10 months. So anecdotally, so this is how they're framing it, because they have to. So because so many people have been starting to get ill and they've been vaccinated, they have to talk about it, because they can't have those people waking up being like, well, why aren't they talking about this? So anecdotally, vaccinated people appear to be getting COVID-19 at a high rate. But there's still not enough concrete scientific studies on how often people get sick and how likely vaccinated people can spread the virus. So bearing in mind, in the US, you were like a couple of weeks ahead, and vaccinated are all being called super spreaders. There was that stupid actor, that that male actor who was telling everybody go get vaccinated. Then he got vaccinated, and then he was called a super spreader, and he was getting angry. I mean, that was hilarious. But that was you're a couple of weeks ahead, right? So because people still have access to the internet, people still have access to conversations with people in the other side of the world. The media has to catch up. At the same time, scientists caution that as more people are vaccinated, it's natural that they would account for a larger share of COVID-19 cases. Yeah. So the people who've been jibby jabbed are going to start waking up because the actual media has to deal with it as well. They're paying like, wait a minute, I'm interested about actually having a conversation with my family and being like, well, it hasn't stopped you, doesn't stop you getting it, doesn't stop you passing it on. So am I really selfish? You're selfish because you're more likely to pass it on. So here's the thing that should really piss all the football fans off. Sorry, really got hair in my ear, as in my hair's going in my ear rather than hair growing out of it like an old man. Not old enough yet, but this should really piss all the football fans off because the football fans are being told they have to be vaccinated, they have to have the vax passport, they have to be, double jabbed, masked up, all of this stuff. But the people whose wages they're paying, they ain't getting vaccinated. So Newcastle manager says a lot of players have not been vaccinated over conspiracy theories. So these guys are awake. So Newcastle manager Steve Bruce said a lot of his team have not been vaccinated against COVID-19 as there's lots of conspiracy theories out there. It comes after Newcastle goalkeeper Carl Darlow lost 2 stone during the course of 5 nights in hospital with COVID-19 this summer. He's still not fit enough to return to the first team squad. So he got ill and then they jabbed shit up his nose and he got a positive test. He probably didn't get COVID. Or maybe he did inside hospital. But we don't know that's why he went into hospital. Okay, so this is an article. Oh, darn it. Go back there. Go back in there. Oh, no. Just said something went wrong. Can you see it? This is an article that somebody spotted over on Tori's show. I was reading the PDF version. Can you just copy? So this is the relationship between fear of COVID-19 and intention to get vaccinated. The serial mediation roles of existential anxiety and conspiracy beliefs, right? And this is due for publication January 2022. So it's probably under peer review now. Under peer review. So, because some of you are new and missed my this is how you deal with science stuff properly. So this is a helpful refresher for anybody. So getting the actual journal articles are always powerful. The first thing you do is you go all the way to the method section. So we don't care what they're saying. We want to, before we read anything else, we want to understand how they're testing it. Like, what is the testing method? Can I zoom in? What does this mean? Create a QR code for this page. I just zoom. Okay, so this research was carried out with 223 French-spoken adults. So I'm not sure whether it's saying these are people from France or not people from France. So I'm going to assume they're French. So that's important, first off, because France has got the highest number of vaccine hesitancy per population, definitely in Europe, It was like, do you remember we looked at those graphs of who is the most vaccine hesitant? And France was at 60% already. So they've gone to France. So this is before COVID. France were already kind of pretty anti-vax. So they've gone to somewhere with a really high rate of not wanting to be vaccinated. So that's going to skew the information already. It's a really small number of people, 223 people. So when they do a study, they will extrapolate this, and they will say that this is the general population. So already we know that chances are the data is not, this is not replicable across not just the entire world, but actually not across the rest of Europe, and definitely not across the Western world, because of how high France's anti-vax already was. And it's a really small number of people, 223. So they're going to say the opinions of 223 people, and they're going to extrapolate it out across the entire population. Also, so I've not read this yet, guys. We're doing this together. Recruited on the most popular social networking sites such as Facebook and Instagram. Well, Facebook and Instagram, so this tells us about the demographics, more about the demographics. So if you look at any kind of social media influencing, if you're trying to, you're running a business, so on Facebook is where you get the mums. So Facebook and Instagram is where you're going to get more mums. You're going to get more individuals who are working class. You're going to get more individuals who are aged between kind of like early 30s, mid to late 50s. That kind of age group hang around on Facebook and Instagram. So they may not be saying, they're not saying that they're specifically targeting women. So you get a higher proportion of women on both of those social networking sites. So they're not saying we are going to target a heavily anti-vax community and specifically pick the individuals who we already know hold these ideas. So let's just double check which social networking site. So let's see whether they say all of them. No, so they're not even going to tell us. So they're not going to tell us which sites. So it just says such as Facebook and Instagram. And so we can't tell who they're actually using. So this is really bad methodology. Like, you want to say specifically which social networking sites. So they won't have used LinkedIn, I bet you. They won't have used Twitter. They will have picked specifically conservative leaning, that age range, because they are already looking to prove their hypothesis correct. That's what we don't even know what their hypothesis is yet, but that's what they're doing with targeting this tiny specific population. And again, they will extrapolate it out across the entire world and be like, this many percentage of people all believe this thing. That this is fake science, and we've only read like 3 lines. Do you see how bullshit research is? Bullshit. Now the real problem is they don't teach you to pick things apart until masters. They don't teach you to start really picking things apart until you're doing your masters. But actually, they don't teach you to do it like this either, because don't teach you to be a complete cynic. And they just tell you to make sure that the methodology matches up and stuff like this. But this is how I always went through it. And then they're going to tell us how they're doing it. So data was collected from January the 1st to February the 1st, 2020. So this is, so why, okay, why were they doing an online survey, months and months before it was a pandemic. Because at this point, so the official timeline, okay, the official timeline is it wasn't called a pandemic until the 3rd or the 4th of January. So how did they not only design the survey, get ethical approval, get together, like how did they already know all of this information was going to come with regards to COVID-19 vaccines? Because this is specifically what they're looking at. So how did they know before it was a pandemic, before we'd need vaccines? This is the world wasn't locked down yet. Like nobody was kind of going through that until November. So this is titled The Relationship Between Fear of COVID-19 and Intention to Get Vaccinated, the Serial Mediation of Roles, Existential Anxiety and Conspiracy Beliefs. So why would they already know that? How would they already know that? Why are they pushing COVID vaccines before it was COVID, right? See that's really dodgy. I've saved this in case they pull this. So the survey link was shared, and here's the other thing. So they're using one teeny tiny specific method population sample. So you're more likely, so again, they are being really specific about who they're targeting. That's a really small percentage of people who will take part in online surveys. If you want to get a good sample population, you'll do an online survey, you'll do a printed letter, you'll do phone calls, you'll also do door-to-door in order to actually get the population. Right, so they're being very specific. We are targeting these 2 social networking sites. We're going to do an online survey. So statistically, it is, bored yummy mummies who are taking all of those personality quizzes. And based on AI, so they will have used Facebook and Instagram will have used their own algorithms, I bet, in order to purposely go for individuals who have a habit of taking surveys. So this is not an indication of people who have those general opinions. This is a really, really small, tiny little percentage that's getting more and more specific without them telling you that it's more and more specific. And share to their contacts. The only inclusion criterion was they'd not but yet been vaccinated against COVID-19. There were no fucking COVID-19 vaccines January to February 2020. How? The French law on biomedical research does not apply to this study. Well, that's interesting. Why are they doing a test on French people and not using the French laws? They're using the American Psychological Association. So this is a psychological experiment if they're using the APA. Why aren't they using the French health code? Does that say you can't do it? I mean, it's all going to be in French. But that's okay, we'll just use Google Translate. Research organised and carried out on human beings with a view to developing biological and medical knowledge is authorised under the conditions provided for this book and hereinafter return to the terms of research involving the human person. There are 3 categories of research involving the human person. 1, interventional research, which includes an intervention on the person not yet justified by his usual care. 2, interventional research, which involves only minimal risks and constraints, the list of which is fixed by order of the Minister in charge of health after consultation with the Director of National Agency for the Safety of Medicines and Health Products. And 3, non-interventional research, which does not involve any risk or constraint, in which the acts are practiced and the products used in the usual way. The natural person or the legal person who's responsible for research involving the human person ensures its management and checks that its funding is planned. It is called the promoter. The latter of its legal representative must be established in the European Union. So, so who are these people? We need to find out. So where are they from? Who are they? Who are they? Which university are they working for? So they have circumvented no. Does it sorry guys, don't mean to be scrolling. Doesn't say. Where is biases? References, credit, authorship. Where's they normally have all of their freaking I'm this label, that label, that label. But they're using Google Scholar as their references. I mean, that's a bit fucking lazy. It looks to me, sorry guys, I'm just scrolling up. I'm sorry about your eyes. It looks to me that it's somebody from outside of France who is getting around the French rules, which says you have to be somebody inside the European Union, by just not using the French rules and doing it under APA, which is really strange. Participants were informed about the study's purpose, i.e. investigating the relationship between personality characteristics, COVID-19 fear, and intention to get vaccinated. Bearing in mind, this is also where the Karens live on Facebook as well. Look at that, 70% women, 30% men. They say between 18 and 75, but the majority of them will be in the middle. Look at this. See, 41% diploma, small have a degree. So what they were specifically looking for was low intelligence, females, because women are at home with the kids. So I told you. So I hadn't read this, guys. I hadn't read this, but I was able to tell you all of that just from this bit of information here. They should have the survey. If they are good, if they are actually good, they would have a copy of the survey, screenshots of what they see. No, they don't. No, they don't. Of course they don't. So, the survey was composed of 3 sections. The first contained information about the study's objectives, anonymity, and a consent form. The second part consisted of a series of socio-demographic questions. The third part was comprised of the following 4 instruments used in the study. Fear of COVID was assessed using the Fear of COVID scale. So somebody's created a Fear of COVID scale, which they've cited that doesn't exist. They've created the Fear of COVID scale. They've created a Likert scale. So what's a Likert scale? So I can guess it's a Likert scale because this is 7 here. And we're about to confirm this. So this is so question consists of 7 items. So I'm going to guess it's a Likert scale. So when watching news and stories about coronavirus 19 on social media, I become nervous or anxious, which measures a state of general fear from COVID on a 5-point Likert response scale with anchors from 1 to totally agree to 5 disagree. There we go. Look at that. Was using the present study. High scores indicated high fear of COVID-19. Cronbach's alpha. Okay, so what this 7 what this means is so Likert scales. These are the ones that you see all the time, and they are the the best way to understand somebody's intent. So a 5-point Likert scale is the kind of gold standard when it comes to surveys. So that part of the study is correct, is good. That's good methodology. However, they haven't shown us the questionnaire. So they could be using very biased answers and weight them differently. So they're saying it's going from totally disagree to totally agree, but we don't know whether it's agree. We don't know whether it's totally disagree, to disagree, neither agree nor disagree, agree and totally agree. So we're not sure what those other 3 words are, and depending what those other 3 words are, it could be weighted slightly different. It could be leading people to pick certain opinions. Now, also, questions will be written in such a way, if they've done it properly, the way that you do a questionnaire and actually make it really robust. So they're only doing 7 questions, which is a really small number of questions, right? Fear of COVID. So what you do is you do a set number of questions one way round, and then you do what's known as a reversed question. So, so you might say, when I see somebody with a mask on, it makes my heart palpate. Disagree to agree. Where do you fall on that? And then you reverse the question. So the intention of the question is exactly the same, but it's read in a slightly different way. So if I put totally agree on one question, the reverse, I should put totally disagree. So it should be the complete opposite. Now, the reason why you do this, they do it specifically, you do it a lot, and it's in all of the personality tests, is because psychopaths and sociopaths will get tripped up on those questions, right? But also you do that because people will just tick, 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 tick. They get bored. And I know it's only 7 questions, but still, if people are being distracted, people are bored, sometimes people just pick the middle ones. So in order to create a very good study, you want to make sure you're actually engaging their brain and you're paying attention. So this is how you get really good confidence intervals, is when you've got the questions going one way and the reverses tallying up with somebody who totally agrees on one, totally disagrees on the other, but actually it's the same question, just slightly worded in a slightly different way. And again, we don't know whether they did or didn't do that because the fear of COVID. So existential anxiety was measured using the existential concern questionnaire. So this has got 22 items. Are they going to show us that? No, they don't show. Why are they hyperlinking to themselves? Oh, unless they've got it in the bottom. Maybe they've got it in the bottom. Composed of 22 items, it measures 3 dimensions of existential anxiety, 12 items for general existential anxiety. The question of whether life has meaning makes me anxious. 6 items for death anxiety. It frightens me that at some point in time I will be dead. 4 items of avoidance. I try to forget that all my choices have consequences. 5-point Likert scale with anchors from totally disagree to totally agree was used. Conspiracy beliefs were measured with the conspiracy belief scale. There's 15 items, 5 factors presented by 3 items each. So government malfeasance, for example, the government is involved in the murder of innocent civilians and or well-known public figures and keeps this a secret. So this is a leading question. This is a leading question. So they're saying this, if somebody ticks totally agree with this question, they will be saying that they have a conspiracy belief. But there is well documented evidence of this having taken place. Extraterrestrial cover-up. The power held by heads of state is second to that of small unknown groups who really controlled world politics. There is evidence of that. So this is bad science. Bad science, right? So whoever created this, so Brotherton et al. In 2013 was way ahead of trying to break the conspiracy theorists down. Malevolent global conspiracy. So secret organizations communicate with extraterrestrials but keep this fact from the public. So there's MJ12, which is very well documented. And here's the other thing. History Channel, the other day, maybe a couple of months ago, did a whole series on MJ12 and the documents. So all you have to go to is the CIA Black Vault and the CIA declassified files, and you will see the evidence of all of this is true. So what they haven't done is they haven't done their due diligence. I mean, obviously they haven't done their due diligence because it's all faked and it's done on purpose. But before you design a study, you want to make sure one of the things that you're measuring is, so you're looking for validity and reliability. Now, this study has no validity because they are already, so we haven't even looked at the results and we have just completely debunked all of this study. Now, that's what we've done collective, this is just from this. They are choosing to use specific items which they are terming conspiracy, but there is factual evidence to back it up. So that's not a conspiracy, that's a fact. So it doesn't matter what the results are, this is fake science. Personal well-being. So the spread of certain viruses and or diseases is the result of the deliberate concealed efforts of some organizations. Well, we are Wuhan Lab, NIH, gain of function research. We've got the truth about swine flu came out. So again, we've got evidence for all of these things. Control of information. So groups of scientists manipulate, fabricate, or suppress evidence in order to deceive the public. And we have evidence of all of these things. So this person's also done one. What was their study? Why? Oh, fuck off. What is it? Giorgio et al. Control F. COVID-19 related conspiracy beliefs and their relationship with perceived stress and pre-existing conspiracy beliefs. They did this. When did they do this one? November 2020. So they were already gearing up. Look, they're calling us psychopaths, this one. Psychopathological traits. Intention to get vaccinated. So vaccine intent was measured with a one-item measurement from Shipman et al. Participants were asked the following question. When a coronavirus vaccination becomes available to you, how likely is it that you will have one? Extremely unlikely to extremely likely. Okay, so they're doing an 11-point scale. Now, this is really, really strange. So I've already said the 5-point Likert scale is the gold standard. When you get to 11 points, the statistical validity of an 11-point Likert scale is really low. People get confused with how many different options there are. And so the higher the number of you see, you end up seeing like a bell curve, and a bell curve just means on a graph, it just goes up like that, and then it comes back down again. So with regards to statistical significance, you imagine like a 5-point Likert scale at the top. So the most beneficial scale is right at the top, and then you get like it all being useless. So this is really strange. Like, why would you do an 11-point scale on technically the most important question out of the entire thing? And with a scale from extremely unlikely to extremely likely, we've also then have to factor in people's understanding of language. So this is why you have to see it. So for somebody, the word totally in a specific language might hold more weight than the word extreme. So we don't know. It's also, I mean, it's 223 participants off of Facebook. I mean, that's really poor. It's really poor numbers. Anyway, so this entire methodology is just all bullshit. They use SPSS. Oh my gosh, that's my bane of 22. That must be an old one. They must be on like 300 by now. I'm sure I was using SPSS. They usually release a new one every single year. Is it going to say what year it was done? What year was released? Yeah, look, why are they using that one? I mean, I know this is Wikipedia, but versions. So they're now on SPSS 28. Why are they using 22? That's a really old version. So there may be bugs in there, maybe. That's really weird. That's a really, really old version. When you're talking about science and research. Anyway, I mean, it should technically still do the same thing. So serial medical model was tested using model 6. All variables were standardized before testing the model. The regression coefficient significance was determined by calculating the 95% bootstrapping confidence intervals. What have they standardized it with? I think they don't know. I think that's why they haven't written it in. Okay. So this is just junk science. So what they're saying, we'll go and just read the abstract to see what they say, but it's just a lie. So the results showed a positive relationship between fear of COVID-19 and intention to get vaccinated. However, when this fear was associated with high levels of existential anxiety through conspiracy beliefs, the intention to get vaccinated decreased. Our findings are in line with the terror management health model, which states that, in fact, facing health threats, humans may strive to reduce their own perceived vulnerability, not only by engaging in healthy behaviours, but also denying or avoiding death anxiety, as anti-vaxxers do. That is a really bold fucking statement. They have just lumped in anybody who doesn't want an experimental gene therapy because they understand how to read information. They're saying that it's because we have death anxiety. So this is really dangerous. This is now in scientific literature. Doesn't matter that it's the abstract. It is it's anybody who's refusing the vaccine has got a specific form of anxiety, therefore is mentally incompetent and unable to competently decide whether they want the vaccine or not. That's what that tiny little statement can be used to argue in court. Because when they use scientific journals in court, they never have to say whether it was from an abstract. They never have to say whether it was from a piece of research which was reliable and valid. Like, they have not passed the reliability and the validity testing. Like, if that came to me for peer review, I would just give it them back and tell them to go and read the CIA Black Vault, because they're using specific scales and methods to force an outcome. Like, that's not scientific inquiry. That is, I need this to prove this. How do I go about doing it? That's what they've done. So we haven't even seen we can't even figure out who funded it, because I can't find it on here. So they're saying, in line with the TMHM, the present research explored different ways of facing anxiety caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. When people focus on the real risk of COVID-19 infection, that's a lie. Their proximal defenses may entail rational choices such as the intention to vaccinate as soon as possible. However, at a deeper level, intense existential anxiety may involve distal defenses, which, to reduce health vulnerability awareness, lead some individuals to avoid their concerns about COVID-19, adhering to conspiracy theories and refusing to get vaccinated. That is a lot of words for saying what they're trying to say. They're trying to say, when people are scared, then they can get vaccinated. If people are scared enough, they will get vaccinated. However, if they believe in, if they score highly on this one test and have conspiracy theories, they're going to refuse. And nevertheless, additional research is needed, including the role of personality traits and other individual variables which still receive little attention from psychologists, to better understand how existential anxiety affects health-related attitudes and health-promoting behaviours. So you're either going to be termed as having death anxiety, existential anxiety, or they're going to give you maladaptive personality disorder. So they're coming for your brains, guys. Yep, and they're not saying where it came from. So it doesn't matter what else they say. I might read that. I might see. I might read that one. Just break that one up. So this was they found this ready for January 2022, but it will just be because that's when it's being. I mean, that sounds super conspiratorial. That in itself isn't, because it's been published online already, and it'll just be when it's going out into their actual publications. So if it's going into Science Direct, I don't know whether Science Direct only do quarterly publications, so the results may not have been ready. It usually gets peer reviewed. They may be doing, so Science Direct may be doing a specific COVID one in January. So then people will be doing research for all of it to go to January. So you've got to be careful about, so that's the one thing I'd say. I mean, the really dodgy thing is that they were talking about getting COVID vaccinated and vaccine hesitancy in January the 1st, before it was a pandemic, before we were even talking about vaccines. That's the dodgy thing. Those 4 days. And so when Wuhan was still, so do you remember they said that there was no airborne transmission? That's what was coming out of China. And they will have already created the study. They will have already got ethical approval through APA. They will have already written the survey that they're doing. They already got their team. They will have already done their basic research. So in order to get to a point where you're actually going and doing the survey, you've got a few months worth of work before doing it. So they were doing this September 2019, October 2019. So this is why it won't say who commissioned it, because we'd be able to backtrack to find out when they commissioned it. And I bet you this was commissioned before the first official documented talking about COVID-19. So they were already checking vaccine hesitancy before COVID was a thing, because COVID wasn't a thing yet. That's really bad. It's really naughty. It's funny. But they fucked up. Fuck that. Little bastards. Okay. So then we've got the BMJ, who are saying that the FDA, and this is quite interesting because this is from, I'm not going to read this one because it's quite long. This is written by Peter Doshi, who's the senior editor of the British Medical Journal. So what's interesting is that him and the editor have been doing these op-eds, which have been questioning the COVID narrative. They keep getting slapped. Because they other doctors and other articles will go in pushing the COVID narrative, but the editor and they aren't playing ball, and they keep doing these little articles. The thing is, they don't hold the same level of weight. But so this came out on the 23rd. Does the FDA think these data justify the full approval of the COVID-19 vaccine? We're going to talk about that in a minute. But this is one for your these is ones for your little evidence logs. There you go. But he goes into the statistics and the fake science. And the fact that they initially said it was 95% effective, but we've also got 64% effective, and then only 39% effective when Delta is the dominant strain. So Israel is saying that everybody's being boosted. So these are the things that people are saying are conspiracy theorists, and this is the senior editor of the BMJ saying the exact same thing. So this is a really powerful one if you're trying to do anything. Here in the UK, you print this out and give this to your employer. Like, this isn't you. This isn't a random blog. This is the BMJ. They're also questioning the Delta narrative. They're not saying it's the vaccine, but they're questioning the Delta narrative. It's a good one. And they mentioned the fact that there wasn't even an advisory committee meeting. So that's something that Tori went into. Her video when she's breaking down the Pfizer thing is really powerful. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but you need to go and watch her show. There's lots of redacted stuff, which is pretty freaky. But here's the exciting thing. So, but here we are with the FDA reportedly on the verge of granting a marketing license 13 months into the still ongoing 2-year pivotal trial, with no reported data past the 13th of March, unclear efficacy after 6 months due to unbinding, evidence of waning protection irrespective of the Delta variant, and limited reporting of safety data, but provides... There you go. So anybody who says it's not a trial, the British Medical Journal are saying that we're 13 months into the 2-year trial, because it was on the FDA, it was on the Pfizer article, it was on the Pfizer, and it was on Moderna, and it was on AstraZeneca, and they edited it to look like they'd recruited all the participants, and they were out of it. So we're not in the third. So phase 1, 2, and 3 are done. We're in phase 4. That's what we're going through right now. Is phase 4 is mass human trials. But trying to find that information, it got scrubbed from the internet. That was before I realized they were going to scrub the internet. So this is why this is worth saving, because this is a BMJ saying, no, you're still in a fucking trial. And so this one I will print out and hand to the doctor when I go back for my operation. I'd be like, this is the BMJ. The doctors and nurses who are jibber-jabbing people will pay attention to this. And even if you're outside the UK, the British Medical Journal is a well-respected journal world over. I don't think I can see links, Penelope. If you've sent it me in Telegram, I will find it. But if not, send it again. But also, the senior editor sent this out on June the 8th. They petitioned the FDA to refrain from fully approving COVID-19 vaccines this year. So the BMJ have they did a formal citizen petition to the FDA. So I didn't realize this, but because I stopped paying attention to them because they were going gung ho before they started jabbing people. And then they obviously were getting their, overnight, everything that was coming out of the BMJ was like, everybody needs to get vaccinated. And I was like, what the fuck? But it seems like over the past few months, they've refound their balls. So I hadn't seen this. So it doesn't matter that they've been ignored. But again, they're talking about here. So our first request is that the FDA require manufacturers to submit data from completed phase 3 trials, not interim results. Trials by vaccine manufacturers were designed to follow participants for 2 years and should be completed before they are evaluated for full approval. Even if they are now unblinded and lack placebo groups, these phase 3 trials are not simply efficacy studies. They're also necessary and important safety studies, as the study titles say, and all collected data remain invaluable. So bearing in mind, we are now in phase 4. The phase 3 trials, which they did, is what they used to get the emergency authorization. So this is why they won't post the trial data, because it's the perceived efficacy from the interim results of the phase 3 data, which is what everybody's using to get the emergency use authorization. So this is why they're ignoring the stuff from the yellow card scheme. They're ignoring the stuff from FAIRS. They're ignoring all of the stuff that's coming out now, because if you look at the emergency authorization and the 179 regulations and wherever you are in your country, the reason why they've got that emergency use is because of the trial phase 3 interim data. So this is why it's taken me a little bit longer to kind of figure out how we do the injunction against the MHRA, because they're not using the yellow card scheme. They're using the phase 3 data. That's what they're doing. It doesn't matter because I can prove that they're being negligent either way. But I just need to figure it out a little bit more robustly. But that's why. So the FDA approval, not approval, shenanigan, funny business is based on this information as well. So we will call on the FDA to require more thorough assessment of spike proteins produced in situ by the body following vaccination, including studies on their full biodistribution, pharmacokinetics, and tissue-specific toxicities. We ask the FDA to demand manufacturers complete proper biodistribution studies that will be expected of any new drug, and request additional studies to better understand the implications of mRNA translation in distant tissues. So these guys really did go into all of the research that had been coming out and petitioned the FDA. So this was June. Was it June or July? Let me just double check. I think it said June, didn't it? June the 8th. So here's my question to everybody in the UK. Like, I missed this. I missed this because I stopped paying attention to them. But how did nobody else who's, helping us and fighting for us pick up on, like, how did they not find this either? How is this not being shared? How has nobody found this? How is this just being ignored? With all of the medical people who are coming out swinging, how did they, like, I don't subscribe to the BMJ. I don't get this. The medical professionals probably get this to their inbox. I mean, I get the BPS. I get the British Psychological Society stuff. I get all the psychology stuff comes to my inbox. I need to sign up for their thing. Why is nobody talking about this? I apologize for not seeing it. So I don't know if I printed this one. Let me just print this one just in case. I forgot. Okay. So the Pfizer contracts. So this is Pfizer. So they're quite a good article, which goes into the fact that they're all illegal. And if they're illegal, then is that Telegram? I'll join this Telegram. So if they're illegal, then it makes them null and void, and it means that everybody can get out of it. So this is quite an interesting little take. So there's a video going around where somebody's talking about the fact that if they fail as a country, if you fail to meet your Pfizer obligations, you are then bound to Pfizer, and they take control of the country. So all state everything. So if they tell you you're having a third jab, you will fucking do it, because if you don't do it, we own you. We're coming after you. So this is he's pulled out these little bits out of the so this was on the 7th. So he's pulled little bits out of leaked contracts, and he breaks down what the little legalese means. This is quite a good little article, but I've also got the full thing contract for you as well. So Pfizer legal contract. So this is COVID-19 data. So less of the third of Delta variant deaths are in the unvaccinated. So 2/3 of Delta deaths are in the jibbity jabbed. So from the 1st of February to the 2nd of August, the UK recorded 742 Delta deaths. I mean, I don't know how they're doing Delta anyway, because it's yes or no, right? Out of the 742 deaths, 402 were fully vaccinated, 79 had received one shot, and only 253 were unvaccinated. So here's the thing. The 253 unvaccinated probably went to hospital not for COVID, and a shot and a PCR test was shoved up their nose. These people probably went to hospital because of what they were experiencing. Well, some potentially not, because they had saline. But that's so we've got 402 deaths out of 47,000 cases vaccinated, 253 deaths out of 151 cases in vaccinated. So if you get COVID having been vaccinated, according to this data, you're much more likely to die than if you're not vaccinated. Now, this is what we know, but this is because this is the immune priming. So do you remember we watched that football video. I mean, I wish I could. I can't remember where I found that. That's like the best video of explaining it completely. 60% of hospitalizations in Israel were fully vaccinated patients. So PCR, this is the other thing. So PCR cycle threshold values from routinely undertaken tests in England show that CT values, are similar between individuals who are unvaccinated and vaccinated. So it's just all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Yeah, well, they're lying about saying there is no menstrual changes, aren't they? That's what they came out with on Monday. Irrefutable proof that it's safe to have if you're a woman or if you're pregnant. That's what I was told specifically. So did I share that link or did I forget? Oh, I forgot. Sorry. I don't know how to get it back up again. Oh, wait a minute. Is it? It's in Telegram. Okay, so this is the Pfizer draft document. Let's share this first. Contract number 1. So this is the Albania document that kind of shook the internet and everybody freaked out. So it is there is a specific page. Let me see if I can find it faster on Telegram because I screenshot it. Oh, bugger. Okay. So this goes into, maybe did I do it? I definitely sent it to Melissa. Let me find you. Oh. I don't know. So in here it says, fuck's sake. I lost the thing. So when it all shut down, I lost the image. There was a little image. Oh, in here. It is in here. Look, laws of Germany again. That's important because that's what Tori was talking about, Germany. So in here, you find out that you lose all your liability. I mean, have I got the image? No. Oh. Bloody hell. So this is the other FDA document. There's a few that have come out, right? So basically, this is the approval, not approval farce. Number 2. And I'm going to quickly go through some of the things that Tori said, and you're going to be able to go and so this was a letter that was sent out. Is this the one that's got it in it? So there's multiple different versions. I'm just checking the footers because it's in the footer where they're naughty. No, not that one. Okay, let's open that twice. So when it comes to the Pfizer, not Pfizer, right? Is in there as well. And there's another contract. Let me just get you the other contract, which is a foreign one again. This is the Dominion Republic. This is the Pfizer document. Number 3. So this is the Dominion Republic's contract that you can get from there. So on the Dominion Public contract, there's a section that says Miss Pass acknowledges and agrees that suppliers' efforts to develop and manufacture the vaccine are aspirational in nature and subject to significant risks and notwithstanding the efforts and any estimated date set forth in this binding term sheet, the parties recognise that the vaccine is currently in phase 2/3 clinical trials and that despite the efforts of the suppliers in research and development and manufacturing, the vaccine may not be successful due to the technical, clinical, regulatory, manufacturing or other challenges or failures. So all of the countries have to sign to say, yeah, we know it's okay that the vaccine might not work, but we're going to pay you all this money anyway. Or we know that we don't care that the vaccine's not going to do what it says it's going to do, but you got to pay us all this money anyway. And if you don't pay us this money, we're going to take control of your country. And it is in those documents. I just couldn't remember which page it was on. So the FDA came out and said that they weren't going to improve. It was just they were reissuing said they were going to reissue the emergency authorization. So on August 23rd, 2021, having concluded that the revising the emergency use authorization is appropriate to protect the public health or safety under section of the FDA, is reissuing the August the 12th, 2021 letter of authorization in its entirety, with revisions incorporated to clarify that the EUA will remain in place for the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for the previously authorized indication and uses, and to authorize the use of Comirnaty COVID-19 vaccine under this EUA for certain uses that are not included in the approved BLA. Okay, so this is where things went a bit funny. So Comirnaty has been authorized for use for younger people. Wait a minute. Or will be doing for the younger people, I reckon, because we've seen that they've done those trials in the UK. So the Pfizer, the one that we already have, the Pfizer one, is being reissued, the authorization. So that's 16 and up, right? Because that's what it was already authorized for, 16 and over. sorry, no, they want. Start again. The original Pfizer is authorized for 16 and over, but nobody allowed them to do it for under 18s inside the US. So Comirnaty has been authorized for 16 and older. Now, here's the thing. They are the same drug, licensed two different ways. Comirnaty has been authorized. The original Pfizer has just been extended. But the sneaky little piece of information that I was trying to find in the footnote, it says that they can be used interchangeably. So it's the same drug, slight differences. It says there's slight differences with regards to legal differences, but the actual drug makeup is the same. So what Tori was saying is it might be that, they've got tags in there, specific biomarkers in there, but it doesn't actually alter the way that the vaccine or the gene therapy is working. So it might be like one glows yellow, one glows green. So you can just track people better, but it doesn't alter that. So it doesn't matter that the original Pfizer is still only emergency use authorization, which is 18 and over, because Comirnaty is 16 and up, and they can use it interchangeably. So it doesn't matter if so there's people saying that they haven't even started to manufacture this second vaccine. But it doesn't matter because the first one's already made and they can use them interchangeably. So that might just be a license on paper. That's it. They wouldn't need to actually manufacture any vaccine. But that's the one that's been approved, that's had the pretend stamp of approval, which means nothing. The other one hasn't. That's still emergency use authorization, but it doesn't matter because that's approved, technical approval through the back door. Which is really dodgy. So the other things, yes, China and Germany. So we just saw on the Pfizer contract that BioNTech is German. And so when Tori was going through the contract that she had, well, I haven't seen the link to that. I might have to go see if I can find the link to that. Lots of things were redacted, and the things that were redacted were things like where it was being produced. Like where it's being manufactured is not, should not be secretive. Why should that be secretive? Also, so yeah, it could be being produced in China, but one of the things that Tori was showing was actually it's the same Wuhan scientists who were creating the COVID pandemic are also creating we know these things, but she was doing the paper trail. So the vaccine that they want to jab into everybody is being created by the exact same people who created the virus in the first place. And it doesn't matter. Here's the thing. It wouldn't matter if it wasn't, because all of the vaccine manufacturers took China's code and used that to create their vaccines anyway. There's also the video flying around where the individual is saying, well, we knew the Pfizer one would be most successful because we've been working with Fauci since 2018 on it. And once we had the code from China, in 2 hours, we had the vaccine produced. 2 hours. So everybody's just taken China's code anyway. So it wouldn't matter whether it was being produced in the UK or the US or France or wherever, because they're using China's code. That's the fake thing that they made. And I'm just going to squash that it's never been isolated again. Okay? Because when we went through all the vaccines, the Russians' vaccine isolated SARS-CoV-2. They didn't use the China code. They have done that. That's what they did. Like, if you go to the Sputnik 5, it tells you how they got the COVID that they're using in their live virus vaccine. They got it from people. So just because when you do an FOI request in the UK and it says that, no, we haven't isolated it, it doesn't mean it hasn't been, just potentially not in the UK. So we've got to be really careful, because people who are spreading those bits of information, it's all coming from the disinformation agents. Just go to Sputnik 5. That's how they did it. They isolated it themselves, because they don't trust China. They went to the people they had who had this COVID, and they used that to create their vaccine. So everybody kept Russia out of the loop, and Russia just freaking made it themselves. Still, that's why I kept saying, if I get forced to have any, I would be I would be like, well, I'll have Sputnik. I don't want any of them. But if I'm going to get to, if I'm being pinned down and I've got a choice of 5, I'm going to pick the Sputnik one, because it's been made as an actual virus. Now, they still got the dodgy adjuvants in there. They've still got all the other dodgy stuff in there because it's not safe, because it's a fucking vaccine. But theirs is an actual vaccine. So when we went through that, so just because every time I talk about it, somebody says, but it's not been isolated. There's no such thing as the COVID virus. And I was like, no, there's no such thing as the coronavirus, a COVID-19 disease that is caused by SARS-CoV-2, because they've never proven that. This correlational, they made this name up. But the SARS-CoV-2 was isolated by the Russians. That's how they created a vaccine. Well, that's what they're saying on their website anyway. So who knows if it's true. But there aren't millions of Russians dying. It's sad, because we have all these conversations, and then some fucking stupid shill shares bullshit, and everybody forgets. And it gets confusing. So we've also got, so Senator Ron Johnson did do a letter. Let me share this. Maybe. No. Let's see whether I've cracked it. Woo! There we go. Okay, so dear Dr. Collins, Wesley and Woodcock, according to an article published on August 20th, 2021 in the BMJ, that's the British Medical Journal, the Food and Drug Administration has decided not to hold a formal advisory committee meeting to discuss Pfizer's application for full approval of its COVID-19 vaccine. In a statement, the FDA reportedly told the BMJ the agency did not believe a meeting was necessary because the FDA has held numerous meetings of its vaccines and related biological products advisory committee related to COVID-19 vaccines, including the 22nd October 2020 meeting to discuss in general the development, authorization and licensure of COVID-19 vaccines. An FDA spokesperson added, the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine was discussed at the meeting on 10th of December 2020. If the agency had any questions or concerns that required input from the advisory committee members, we would have scheduled a meeting to discuss. So this was the other thing, is Tori mentioned that on the news, people were saying, well, they said no and they resigned and all of this stuff, but there was never a meeting in the first place. So people are lying. As you're well aware, I first raised the issue of vaccine safety signals coming from FDA and CDC. So VAERS in a meeting with the NIH Director Collins on April the 27th, 2021. Since then, I've written 4 oversight letters in the subject of vaccine safety. effectiveness and adverse events. To date, I've received little to no substantive response. This lack of transparency is unacceptable. As of August the 20th, 2021, VAERS is reporting 12,791 worldwide deaths associated with 3 COVID-19 vaccines available under FDA emergency use authorization. Of those deaths, 4,632 occurred on day 0, 1 or 2 following vaccination. And that's really important because that shuts down the narrative that it's just correlation. So it's a correlation that people are dying, within 28 days of the vaccination, but this is causational. If there's 463 occurring in 0, 1 or 2 within 2 days, that's causational. That's and that will be under their own wording about things. If something happens within 48 hours, it's because of the thing that they've just had. As the CDC and the FDA are quick to point out, VAERS reports do not prove causation, but this number of deaths, particularly with 36% occurring within 2 days of vaccination, should raise serious concerns. There we go. Look at that. So it should also be noted that the 12,791 deaths related to COVID-19 vaccines reported on VAERS over the period of 8 months compares to 8,966 deaths related to all other vaccines reported on VAERS since the inception of VAERS, a period of 31 years. And this does not raise alarm bells within your agencies or cause you to reconsider assembling an independent safety panel of outside experts. In addition to the deaths, VAERS is also reporting 16,044 permanent disabilities, 51,242 hospitalizations, 571,831 total adverse events related to the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm receiving a growing number of letters from doctors and nurses detailing the vaccine injuries they are witnessing and treating, together with the suppression and censoring of this information they are experiencing. Your agency's dismissive attitude towards natural immunity has also been puzzling, to say the least, and may increase the chances of vaccine injury in previously infected individuals. In May the 19th, 2021 advisory, the FDA specifically discouraged Americans and their physicians from determining the status of their antibody immunity to SARS-CoV-2. It would seem to me that more medical information, not less, is the key to improving health outcomes related to any disease, including COVID-19. Since the FDA's latest VRBPAC public meeting, in addition to the VAERS data, there have been a number of safety concerns raised by highly qualified medical professionals and researchers. A petition signed by 31 medical professionals and submitted to the FDA argues there is no need to short-circuit the full approval process, including public safety forums, since the EUA is making the vaccines available to anyone 12 years or older choosing to be vaccinated. Some researchers are concerned about the unblinding of Pfizer's placebo group and how that will impact the reported trial results on safety and efficacy. Recent data coming out of the UK and Israel regarding vaccine efficacy raises a number of questions, including why isn't the same data regarding US breakthrough cases available to the American public? All these issues should be discussed in a transparent and public forum. I see no need to rush the FDA approval process for any of the 3 COVID-19 vaccines. Expediting the process appears to not only serve a political purpose of imposing and enforcing vaccine mandates. The observational phases of FDA approval take time because there is no substitute for time in detecting and determining possible long-term harm. Additionally, we are already experiencing a severe healthcare worker shortage. Frontline doctors and nurses that are contacting me are expressing grave concerns about vaccine mandates, which will only exacerbate the shortage. Over the last year and a half, the decisions of federal health agencies have dramatically affected the lives of all Americans. The impacts of these decisions have been felt in Americans' treatment options, employment, schools, housing, and travel, and in countless other ways. The human toll of the social restrictions and economic devastation is incalculable. Unfortunately, your federal health agencies have not been made transparent with the American people about how these life-altering decisions have been made or what science and data they are based upon. I urge you to provide the information I've requested in my previous letters and to reconsider your decision not to assemble a VRBPAC public meeting prior to granting any final COVID-19 vaccine approval. So they did it kind of, they did the vaccine approval the day after this, regardless. But that was cool. So then we've got Paxton. So this is Texas. Successfully sues a vaccine mandating school district. So he sued the San Antonio Independent School District and its superintendent for mandating all district employees receive a COVID shot in violation of Governor Abbott's Executive Order 38, which bans public entities from requiring individuals to receive COVID-19 vaccines administered under the FDA's EUA. So this is where it says. So we won't push anyone until they're fully approved. So this is why the FDA had to do the funny business with those Pfizer vaccines. Oh, you can't see that. My apologies. This is why the FDA had to do the funny business. This is so that they can mandate in the US. So this is the power of the people. So the people have been inundating their elected officials with letters pushing for things, and so then the cabal has to react. It doesn't make sense. So the more you push and back them into a corner, and the more they do crazy stuff and react like they reacted when everybody's just saying, well, wait a minute, how can you authorize this when there's all this data? Like, you haven't even followed your own procedures. Like, what the fuck's going on? It will be waking more people up. More people coming on board, more people going, this is fucking insane. And maybe those conspiracy theories are right. If you want that, that's Texas. Hawaii first responders has filed a lawsuit against mandated COVID shots. So they should do quite well, because obviously it's already been cited a violation of the constitutional rights, due process and equal protection under the First, Fourth, Fifth, and 14th Amendments of the US Constitution. That's what you got to do. You just got to roll with the punches, and then sue. And the more of you together, the better it is. This is an interesting one. So, a professor's been granted vaccine exemption after natural immunity lawsuit. Now, we don't want exemption because you're buying into their bullshit. But this is quite interesting, because he's proven his natural immunity, so therefore he doesn't need COVID vaccine. But this is going to start, this will force, so they've been completely ignoring natural immunity, just ignoring it, just assuming anybody who's not been vaccinated is going to die. Well, that's what they're telling everybody. Now, I'm not taking a test to prove that I'm immune. I'm not doing that either. So the lawsuit argued there is substantial scientific evidence indicating natural immunity from the virus is stronger than immunity through various vaccines. This is powerful because this is now in law, and we've seen how the UK, the USA, Australia, like, they all use each other's laws because they are all based on common law, which was set down in the UK, and then anywhere that kind of came from the UK took that basic and then built case law on top of it. And so they use everybody else's case laws to fight their arguments and their taste. So wherever you are in the world, this can still be used if you are filing a lawsuit. It can still be used. So if you have, and this is where it's going to bite them in the ass. If you've been forced to do any kind of COVID test and you had a positive result, then you can argue you've got natural immunity because you've had COVID, because that's what they're saying. They're saying your positive PCR test is you having COVID, an infectious COVID, and you've got over it. So therefore you must have natural immunity and therefore you don't need a vaccine. So this is, so Tori talks about using their words, and I've been saying we have to pay attention to what they're saying, and when we get an opportunity, you can bite them in the ass. So this is it. Like anybody who's been forced to do a PCR test, if it's ever come up positive, there you go. I'm immune. I'm not taking another test. This is my, track and taste. I took this, and so you don't have to do any more tests because you're immune. So you just go, no, I don't need the vaccine. I don't need to do any more tests. They've already had it. Now I'm immune. So no. Yeah, screw you. A poor doctor in Northern Ireland has been suspended over COVID-19 jab claims. So London Dairy GP has been suspended for comments she made about the COVID vaccination programme. So Dr. Anne McCloskey expressed concerns in a social media video about young people being given the COVID-19 vaccines. The Health and Social Care Board said it was suspending Dr. McCloskey as a precautionary measure while it undertakes a full investigation. So she said there's not enough evidence it was safe for young people to be vaccinated. She was distraught by the number of young people damaged by unlicensed and unapproved vaccines. So what do the under 30s need to know about the vaccine? She said many young people have been coerced, bribed or bullied into being vaccinated, and that vaccines are malevolent. So well done her. She spoke out on social media and she's taken, she's fighting. That's all you can do, is you can fight. So I mean, I keep saying that we've got to, you've got to play chicken. We're playing chicken with the cabal to see who's going to blink first. And one of the things that I didn't realize that Tori sent, is if you get a percentage of the population to take the vaccine, that ends up can be used with regards to general population consent. So this is why it's really important people don't do it. You don't do it for your job, because if you get the vaccine, you are giving them the authority to pin everybody else down who is fighting for you, to pin them down and jab them too. And we've already seen at the beginning how they have made the links between a conspiracy theorist and an anti-vaxxer, and we've now all got health anxiety. So the reason why we're anti-vaxxers is because we've got health anxiety, which means, and conspiracy theorists, which means that we are incompetent and crazy and we can't make our own decisions. That's where they're going. So anybody who shared, you guys who are watching me. And that's what I was going to say about my doctor's appointment. She asked me, how's my mental health? So she was asking me, and I was like, my mental health's great. I'm happy. It's like, my mental health is fine. It wouldn't matter if I was on my knees. I would not tell you. I'm not. I'm happy. But yeah, so they because I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I don't want it. So care home officials asked, how can I in all conscience sack somebody who's done nothing wrong? So ignoring the fact that it's unlawful, the people in charge are questioning it. So 6 in 10 care facilities will be forced to sack some of their staff because they haven't been jabbed. But this official rightly asks, how can I in all conscience sack somebody who has done nothing wrong? I have been vaccinated and support vaccination, but how is it reasonable to take people's jobs because they do not wish to endure this invasive procedure? They cannot be made redundant because the job is still open. The law hasn't been thought through. It would have been better if we'd been allowed to keep the staff we have and not employ any new unvaccinated staff. I'm in despair about this injustice. Because here's the other thing, is it's not like they can just replace them. So with care homes, this is why it's quite funny. The government chose care homes first. So if you speak to anybody who works in a care home, the staff turnover is high with regards to the care profession. They get treated like shit by both the people they're working for and sometimes the people they're working with, because, you know, sometimes the individuals they're working with have got specific difficulties that make them not very pleasant to work with. You know, so sometimes, you know, we spoke before that, you know, my nan had Alzheimer's, but when she had an infection, she was a vicious, horrible individual because she was infected. And that happens to all of us. But because she had Alzheimer's, you know, they just assume it's Alzheimer's. Anyway, so turnover in care homes is high anyway. Care homes are usually understaffed anyway. So what if you get rid of, say if you even only get rid of 10% of your workforce, there isn't a 10% to replace them with. So this is why, like, if all of the care home workers and all the care workers just hold the line, this entire thing collapses, because the care homes, and the majority of care homes in the UK, they're private businesses. They're business people. They don't want to, you know, the people who are running the care home don't want to have to get their hands dirty and wipe the arses. They want to be swanning it at home. But if you all end up just having to be sacked, is they're going to have to come in and what, you know, that's the job they're going to have to do, is change bedpans, get people dressed. It's not a job they want to do, and it's not a job it's a job that they already really struggle to recruit for. So it's a very, very funny that they chose to use care homes, because that's the industry that is already understaffed, and the care homes know how difficult it is to get staff. Now they're going to have to stipulate you have to be vaccinated to work here, and if they stick that on a job advert. So if they stick that on a job advert, is they can get sued for discrimination, for health discrimination. So they aren't going to want to do it. We won't roll over, little fuckers. So I'm not playing this. I've watched this. So if you haven't watched this, I do recommend you watch this. This is a 16-minute video, 17-minute video. DHS insider blows the whistle on international child sex trafficking gangs exploiting reasonable fear loophole. It won't just be happening in the US. This is it enables us to know what to look for when we're doing our own kind of investigations. Like, I urge you to watch that. It's good. It's good. I mean, it's not good as in like happy good, but it's. I want to share this link. Let me just check which one this is. Oh, yeah. No. Is that the right one? Yeah. This is the pharmacist in Ohio, which Tori shared the other day. Who made a very, very important point, that the 95% efficacy is not 95% of the population, it's 95% of that 1% that was going to die. So it's all, I mean, it's just statistics, damn lies, and they just lie with statistics. So Trouble Seven says, how about people who've worked in care homes for years and get pushed out because of no vax? Is that not breach of contract? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. It is a breach of contract. Is they can't coerce you into an invasive medical procedure. It's against the human rights. It's all of those other things. So the people in the care home just they hold the line and they get sacked and they sue, or they hold the line and they don't get sacked because the care home backs down. Now, I personally believe the care homes will back down. And the care homes will, I mean, they don't want to be, so they are stuck. The care homes will have lawyers. They will have lawyers. And if they see the people just being like, right, well, you have to sack me because I'm not having it, is their lawyers will start looking at ways to overturn what the government has done, because the government has done something unlawful. So it won't take very long for they're business people with arms of, they have lawyers. And they will be paying the lawyers the big bucks, and they won't want to lose their business. So their business will collapse. So people's self-preservation, this is why I kept saying we go after each individual person. If a police officer, back when they were like force masking everybody, if you sue that police officer for harassment, they ain't going to do that again. And word gets round. Like, you can't sue the Met. The Met doesn't give a shit. But you sue the individual person who's jabbed you in the arm. If they've caused you harm, you sue the head teacher who is forcing your child into an invasive medical procedure, or forcing your child into a medical intervention against their will, of which they aren't competent enough to say. They don't have capacity to make medical decisions. You've read the research, they haven't. I'm suing you for causing harm to my child. So, if your kid has got, lots of kids were getting, what's it called, like viruses and fungal infections on their face, like, sue the head teacher. They're the one who did it. They didn't have to. And even when they didn't have to, there was that school that said everybody, when the UK government said only children who are not special, but it was supposed to be, care workers and their kids, and that school said, well, all of my kids they all fit this criteria, and they just opened up. They weren't locked down, and they said, no, we're not doing that. The kids need to be educated. And nothing happened to them. The head teacher didn't get hauled away and go to prison. It's just people, if you start suing each individual person, and you don't even need to have a lawyer. You just send them a letter to say you will cease and desist. Otherwise, I will contact my solicitor. They don't know whether you've got a solicitor or not. But if 20 parents send that letter, and then 20 of you together chip in for a £250 email from a local solicitor, like, it, you don't have to then think, it's not thousands and thousands and thousands to take them to court. Self-preservation will kick in. Those teachers and head teachers and doctors and nurses, they all want their jobs. They all want their fancy lifestyle, but nobody's challenging them. Just sue them all. Bankrupt the country, sue them all. But I keep saying, guys, I don't, where's that? Why is that just shut? I don't, I'm not in these situations, so I can't, they're not things that I can lead the way on. Like, I don't have an employer. I'm employed by myself. I don't, I just say no, and then quite often that's the end of it. That's why I'm trying to work on this injunction. So I'm trying to work on ways we can go go bigger. But if you guys are being pressured into stuff like this, you've got to hold the line, and you've got to have the balls to sue. So start looking into it now. How am I going to go about that? And if you've got kids in school, you just write a letter saying this breaches this law, this is unlawful, this does this, and I've done all the work for you. I've done all the homework. You just need to write your own letter. Supposedly now they're going to get the prisoners out of prison to drive the lorries. So they're going to let the prisoners out. They don't need prisoners to drive the vans. That's not the problem. This is bullshit narrative. This is not the truth. This is not what's going on. The reason there's certain shortages is because it's been purposely manufactured, because people have been told to dump the food. It's nothing to do with the lorries. It's nothing to do with the shortage of people. Freights and carriers and all of that in Europe have been told they are not allowed to trade with the UK. They are being fined. They are losing their licenses. So they've stopped. It's not because of Brexit with regards to we need to sort out contracts. It's the EU has politically motivated to block food from coming into the UK. Like the EU are punishing the UK. That's not the same as just saying it's because of Brexit. This is the EU are attempting to starve the British people because we pissed on their bonfire slightly. But yeah, so let the prisoners out of prison. That's exactly what we need to do. So now they are creating the narrative. So here comes Pelosi and Bernie coming to take over because Biden is a fucking mess. And here is again, Sanders is traveling to Iowa to pitch Biden's spending package. So Bernie, they're sliding him in. Judicial Watch got an FOI request with regards to human organ harvesting project at the University of Pittsburgh. 252 documents received reveal shocking details of the university's quest to become a tissue hub for human organ harvesting. The NIH gave nearly $3 million to the University of Pittsburgh quest to be a tissue hub for human fetal tissue ranging from 6 to 42 weeks gestation. Fitton added 42 weeks is typically 2 weeks past a normal pregnancy. So organ harvesting is not just happening in the US. In China. It's happening. So I want to know which. So here in the UK, we'll be able to use this and figure out which UK university is doing our organ harvesting. So you can reverse engineer this. And if you're in the US, it's already there for you. Sweden's Prime Minister is stepping down in November. So I don't know what's going on there. But Sweden are... No, I don't know what's going on there. Sweden. So the announcement of his resignation came as a surprise, so nobody kind of knows what's going on. He served as party leader for almost 10 years and prime minister since 2014. There's also another random resignation. Johnson & Johnson CEO Gorski to step down. So next year, January 3rd, Jochen Dauto will become the CEO. He's currently vice chairman, so he's going to step up. So that's weird. Jacqueline attends the 4th annual Save the Children Illumination Gala. Right, so he's not good people, but I wonder what they've done to the first one. This is for anybody who's interested in kind of UK. Can I share these images? Okay. So this is what's going on in Oldham. So this is kind of the UK grooming stuff. So this is the UK Oldham Labour. This guy here is a convicted kidnapper, gang member who tortured and sexually abused his victims. This is Aruj Shah, and this is her brother who's convicted of money laundering. Mohammed Imran Ali is convicted heroin dealer and right-hand man stroke driver for killer Dale Cregan. And this is the new leader of Oldham Council and assistant to MP and Shadow Transport Minister Jim McMahon. Then we've got this dude. He's probably convicted for something. So this guy here, Labour council leader reported to police over multiple claims of harassment and bullying of anti-grooming gang campaigners. So they're still trying to kind of quiet it and hush it up. That's a biggish scream. But yeah, so this is the leader of Oldham Council who is running around with abusers, and she is the MP's assistant. That's really dodgy that you've got the leader of the Oldham Council is also the assistant to an MP. That's really dodgy. That's that. And they're not even hiding it. That's the bad thing. They're not even hiding it. Then we've got, Capitol police officer who was fatally shot, Ashley Babbitt, outside a door of the US Capitol has been formally exonerated after an internal investigation, according to a department memo obtained by NBC News, right? So Pelosi investigated herself and decided that she's not guilty. Afghanistan news. So Muslim on a no-fly list was flown into the UK during the evacuation operation. Now here's the problem, is once they're here, is we can't deport them. Flown into Birmingham. Of course they have been flown into Birmingham. So this links in heavily with the Project Veritas stuff. With regards to no-fly lists just being ignored. So Manchester has already accommodated. So did you know that 1,000 refugees were already here in Manchester? And Manchester with Andy Burnham, who's disgusting. If we were only supposed to take, 5,000? 20,000 over 5 years, and we've already done 1,000 in the first 24 hours of it happening, 48 hours of it happening, and people didn't even know. It's disgusting. So the hotels being placed in Manchester are full. The government is seeking to place people in other parts of the country. Now, where I live in Telford, they have been building houses for many, many years. And I keep saying, but people like, why are we building 30,000 houses? So Telford's like 170,000-ish constituency. But so 30,000 houses. There isn't the jobs for 30,000 families worth who, and I keep saying, but who's moving into these houses? We have a housing shortage, but they're just building houses. People aren't moving into them. So I would say Telford's probably going to get a big chunk of refugees because we just happen to have lots of council houses freshly built. They're not all council houses, but what is it? 10% have to be. Still 3,000, is it? Was it? Yeah, 10%, 3,000. I think maths is not my strong point. And then we will finish with this tiny little video. September 11th is coming up. They will probably be doing something September 11th because, they do like to do stuff on their specific dates for whatever reason. I don't think you can watch it this way. I think, hold on, I have to do the other button. Do the other button. Other button.
Our nation paused to mark the 5th
I know why that's not playing.
anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. The information that the Central Intelligence Agency has obtained by questioning men like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed has provided valuable information and has helped disrupt terrorist plots, including strikes within the United States. For example, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed described the design of planned attacks on buildings inside the U.S. and how operatives were directed to carry them out. That is valuable information for those of us who have the responsibility to protect the American people. He told us the operatives have been instructed to ensure that the explosives went off at a point that was high enough to prevent people trapped above from escaping. He told us the operatives have been instructed to ensure that the explosives went off at a point that was high enough to prevent people trapped above from escaping. The explosives.
Yes. So Joey says London's the same, lots of building here. Respect, Katie. Yeah. Oh, hey Joey, thank you. Yes. So we're finished on that point because it is only a couple of weeks away. They are priming. If we've already had 1,000 refugees rock up into the UK under the cover of darkness, like I didn't know there'd been 1,000 here already. That's insane, and more coming. So what are they going to do? Like 5,000 in the space of 3 days? We still had, we're having between 600 and 800 people landing in Dover every single day. There is like thousands and thousands and thousands of individuals in the UK and ready and primed. And there's hundreds of thousands in the US, and there's thousands and tens of thousands in other places in Europe, because that's what's been happening over the past couple of years, and exponentially since Bozo took control of the UK and since Biden supposedly running the ship in the US. They're losing control of the COVID narrative. They are ramping up the narrative of terrorism, of division. I pray that things are okay, but I'm not naive. There are a lot more people who are terrified, whether they're terrified of terrorists or whether they're angry, or there's a lot more people collectively still with negative anger, fear, all of that energy, that we are going to see more of that stuff before it gets better. There's not enough people sending love into the ether to counteract that balance. So remember what I said before is like, if you do things out of hate, it just comes hate back at you. If you do things out of anger, anger comes back at you. You have to do things out of love in order to get love back out. So as long as we hold to that narrative and share that with people, the only thing that shifts is you. And if everybody shifts, if we do pay attention and play in this spiritual plane first, we don't have to manifest the negative stuff specifically for us. So that's what we need to do. We need to mitigate for ourselves and feed into the big sphere. So a reminder, do whatever you can every single day to fill yourself full of serotonin, sing, laugh, dance, journal, experience what life is like on the other side first. The whole journaling about what life's like after, and the peace and the joy, like that is powerful. It isn't just, pie in the sky. It is so powerful. My clients that I work with in the mental health sphere, they are the ones who the NHS say are treatment resistant, and they do all get better, like fast, in 12 weeks. It happens fast because they focus on feeling good. The way that you feel dictates the results that you see. So feed into what makes you feel good. If you need to, just ignore the negative stuff. Just don't if you need to, step away and just step away for an entire 7 days. Be like, I'm just not paying attention to that. Like, the world will not implode in those 7 days, and if it does, you will find out somehow. Like, it is, you have to put you first, and if every put their individual feelings and emotions first, like, that's how we shift. That's how you shift. Write your future. Write your future now. What it's going to look like. What it's going to feel like. Okay, you can't guarantee specifically what it'll look like, but you can guarantee what it feels like by living there now. How do you do that? Journal. Yes, you can visualize, but I wouldn't, unless you are a purely happy, healthy individual with no baggage. It's going to be very difficult to do it just in your mind. And if you do visualization, you only need to do it for 2 or 3 minutes. It's minutes. It's not hours and hours and hours. You just need to shift your vibration. Journal for true history. Absolutely. Absolutely. So sending you guys so much love. I do recommend everybody watches. I always tell you to go and watch Tori's show anyway. But you can listen to her show. If you go to torisaid.com, you can listen to the previous episode on a podcast. If you don't have Twitch, you can go there. So if I haven't caught up with it on Twitch, I will, go to Tori Said and catch up with it while walking the dogs on the podcast. It's on iTunes. It's available as a podcast as well. But she goes into the whole Pfizer stuff. All of this stuff is going to help you see who is truthful and who's not truthful. Now, sometimes I misremember things, and sometimes stuff that Tori says goes over my head, but I do always say, this is what I think she means. Go and watch her. Go and watch her. This is what I can grasp from it. But you need to be able to have those conversations with people, because that's how we need to wake up the awake people, because the awake people are still listening to the shills. So how do you wake up the awake people? Well, you say, well, actually, that's not really the truth. You might want to go watch this explanation. Because then they're going to be like, well, why are they telling me something different? You'd be like, well, maybe they're controlled opposition. Okay, so thank you very much. So just a gentle reminder, I'm not here Saturday. I am going to be partying and dancing at somebody else's wedding, not mine, still after 20 years. Maybe one year, maybe one day. But yeah, I'm off to a wedding. So I shall see you guys next Wednesday. And I hoped that I hope by then we will have boots on the ground stuff to do. We will have stuff. We will be well on the way to maybe collecting witnesses for our MHRA injunction. If you do, so do let me know if you have if you have had this letter, if you've had this letter and you are unvaxxed and you have also opted out of the NHS, let me know, because I'll ask Big G to kind of figure out, but we might do a mass breach of data protection lawsuit against the NHS for this as well. But so far I've just got Matt's letter, and I'm pretty sure I opted him out, but I can't remember. I definitely opted myself out, but my letter will probably come a couple of weeks later. So if you've had yours and you've opted out, it's a breach of data protection. You did not agree for your information and your health number, your NHS number, to be used in marketing and research. My pleasure. I thank you very much, Penelope. I will send you a picky. Have an amazing day, and I shall see you all very, very soon. Mwah. Lots of love.